All right, guys, welcome to another ladies' night. Moff is off this week, so I'm filling in. Spencer did a great job putting a panel together for us. Ladies, welcome. The way that we run these shows, it's members-only chat. So YouTube has told me run members-only for your channel for the algorithm and the benefits. I set it the lowest tier possible. I think it's 99 cents. So join that. And if you want to pose a question to the gals on the show, just throw a quick super chat. We'll put it up on the screen, and we're happy to go down those rabbit holes. Spencer, you want to take it away and do the intros?
Yep. So ladies, we'll start off with just name, age, where you're from, what you do for a living, and your relationship status. So we'll start with Natalie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Natalie. I am 31 years old. I host a podcast called That's What He Said, which is all about dating. It's called That's What He Said because it's all about getting the male perspective to try to bridge this gap between men and women in today's dating world, kind of give the men a platform to speak on their thoughts and their feelings. My day job, I'm in sales, and my relationship status is single.
Right. And Halston.
Hi, I'm Halston Dare. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm 25. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I'm also in social media and marketing, and I'm online at Berkeley.
Cool. And what interested you in coming on the show today?
I've never done something like this before, and I have like a really big open mind and love trying new things, and you reached out, and I was like, why not?
Cool. And you're single, or are you in a relationship?
I'm single.
Single, okay. Go ahead, Spencer.
Next we'll go May.
Hi, I'm May. I'm 23. I'm in marketing, but I want to get into tech. I'm doing a software engineering course. I'm from London. I'm originally from Hong Kong, and I am the definition of single.
The definition, okay. We'll get some clarity on that in a bit.
Like an explanation. Cool. Anything that made you want to come on the show?
Side quest. I like having dates, essentially.
Cool. Holly.
Hello. I'm Holly. I'm from England. In the middle. I study art, and I am on the show for similar reasons to May, side quest. I'm single as well.
Age?
Am I allowed to shout out my friend?
You want to say hi to a friend?
Yeah.
Fire away.
Shout out Chloe Pointer.
All right. And how old are you, Holly?
19.
19, okay. Who's next?
Kat.
Hi guys, I'm a psychology graduate. I work in forensics, have been for the last 2 years now. I work in drug rehabilitation, and I took an interest in this because this is the first time for everything, so I thought, why not? Very similar to what Halston said. What was the other question? Sorry.
Age and relationship status.
I'm quite private about my relationship status, but there might be someone, is what I can say. And my age is 26.
And you're located in the UK as well?
Yes, London.
Okay.
Cool. And Kendall, jump over to you.
My name's Kendall. I am 29 years old. I am a house painter. The reason for coming on the show is pretty similar to everyone else, just a new experience. I have a very open mind, and I love learning about new things and human behavior especially. What was the other question? I totally blanked.
Relationship status.
Oh, I am single.
Okay. So we've got a big panel of single ladies tonight, Spencer.
Yep.
What do you want to start with,
I've
man?
got a lot of variations of single. Something I find we see a lot
what's
of on the show.
What's the definition of single? May said that she was the very definition of single. What does that mean?
Not speaking to anyone, not entertaining anyone.
Not speaking to anyone and not
Entertaining.
entertaining anyone. Okay, yeah, that's pretty single. Okay. What do you want to start with, Spencer? You took a few questions and some notes before the show.
Yeah. So Natalie is she's read your book before,
Okay.
or at least parts of it. And one of the things she brought
There you
up
go, I'll
was
advertise.
the topic of, there it is,
Thank you.
the
Appreciate it.
the topic of girls trips.
Girls trips. Okay. And what about girls trips?
Yeah, he was asking me if there was anything in the book that I disagreed with. And I
Okay.
said, I don't necessarily disagree, I don't think. But I was curious to hear more about your perspective. There was a point you made in the book about, I guess, not thinking it's okay for your significant other to go on a girls' trip. I think I just wanted to discuss that, maybe try to understand it better.
Yeah. So question around that?
I guess was that your point that, like, let's say you had a girlfriend or a wife that you would not approve of her going on trips with girls alone?
Well, it depends. I mean, if we're talking a girls' trip to a lake house with just the gals and you're doing a book club sort of meet up, drink some wine and cook together, fine, sure. But if the idea is to get together for a bachelorette party in Ibiza or Vegas, then that would be a no-go zone.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be allowed to do that?
Possibly.
Okay.
I would agree with you in the sense of, like, you can have like your girls trip and go, out of town for an hour away and, it's all wholesome and innocent. But if you can't do a bachelorette trip, but you can go on a bachelor trip.
Yeah, that comes up a lot. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like, I think the big difference. So let's use like bachelorette parties as an example. So I've done 2 podcasts now with, and you're gonna have to forgive me because I got a cold, so my voice is gonna crack a bit tonight. So I might have to cough and step aside. But I've done 2 podcasts now with male strippers, and they were talking in detail about their experiences over, I think it was collectively about 20 years, between the 2 of them separately. And about 80% of the interactions that happen at these bachelorette parties involve sexual intimacy. Something like 2 in 10 brides to be indulge in some version of sexual intimacy with the strippers. So it's either the guests at a bachelorette party or the bride to be, but some version or some mix of that. Because, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. This is the bachelorette party, so the girls go wild sort of thing. I've never seen that level of participation when guys get together for a stag or something like that. It just doesn't happen. Dancing Bear, have you guys ever heard that story before? No?
I haven't, no.
I'll let you guys look it up after the fact, after the show, but go to Google and search up Dancing Bear and you'll get some information on what that's about. But that's basically the bride-to-be participating in some level of intimacy with the male stripper. So I think it's, why it might sound similar, it's not the same. And I think there's a different set of standards that have to exist for men and women when it comes to how they operate within the relationship. The main point of it, Natalie, though, is if you're going to lead the relationship and you're going to be in a relationship with a woman, you've invited her into your life to build something together, whether it's long-term, a family, children, whatever it happens to be. I think you'd have to be incredibly stupid and naive as a guy to co-sign or endorse girls' trips away, which often lead to trouble. And I think that most women on the panel know that they do lead to trouble a lot of the times.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see both sides in the sense of, like, especially if you're in a long-term relationship, there's certain things that you should do as a man to protect the marriage. I'm going to use the context of marriage.
Yeah.
And, certain boundaries that should be in place. For example, I have a married couple that I look up to. They don't even ride in the car alone with the opposite sex because it's just like crossing a boundary. But on the same token, like, if I was married and I had my best friend, I was her maid of honor, she's getting married, she's going on her bachelorette trip, she wants to go to Vegas, I think, like, not allowing me to do that is almost a sign of like a lack of trust. Like it seems like there's maybe a deeper issue there.
Yeah, and that's usually what
I've been to Vegas many times. I've never had sex with a stripper.
Yeah, and I could see that. And that's usually the answer that most women will get. It's like, there's a lack of trust. Why are you insecure? Why are you controlling? Sort of thing. But at the end of the day, like if you care about the guy and you respect him and you want to follow his lead, you shouldn't be asking to go away for a bachelorette party to Vegas. That should be a conversation maybe you have with your girlfriend who's getting married and be like, hey, look, I'm happy to do a bachelorette party if it's something nominal, but if you're going to set it up in Vegas or something like that, just understand that I'm going to have to pass. Right.
What if there's no strippers involved?
Doesn't matter. Like that would be the expectation had, if a guy's expected to lead the relationship, if the guy's expected to pay for things, if the guy's expected to be competent, resourceful, solve problems, make money, be masculine, be alpha, be beta, be funny, all of these things, then he has to have some degree of authority in the relationship. Because if you don't have any authority in that, leading it, without putting too fine of a point on it, you're kind of a bitch. Because a lot of guys that end up in situations like that, like that's how they get cheated on.
What if your partner, like say you've been together for a while, or maybe you're married and your partner would never do something like that to you. Okay, like here's an example. Like I recently just got out of a relationship like about 2 months ago, but while we were together, there was a bachelorette trip that was planned in December, which was my best friend. And it was a cottage outside of New York, and we finger painted and played card games and barely drank. And we went and made candles at a factory together, went antique shopping. And that was the bachelorette trip.
Okay. Have fun.
Yeah.
No problem at all.
Okay.
Can I respond to that really quick?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a statement that you made that is super dangerous, which is that Halston made. That I know my partner would never do that. Or even saying that about yourself, like I would never cheat on you. I think human beings are capable of anything. Yeah. So I think to say like, oh, I know my boyfriend would never cheat, or I would never cheat on my boyfriend, to me, that's almost a red flag because you're so unaware of your own capabilities. You're so unaware of like the power of temptation. So that's why earlier I said I understand putting
if you have a value system and also like a track record and a history record, and you don't sleep around, and you date to marry, and you've never cheated before, and on top of that, like yourself, you also pick a partner that has the same value system as you as well. And of course, with time comes building that trust and building that loyalty within that person. But in all my relationships that I've ever been in, I've been in long term where it's 4 or 5 years, and I've been in short term where it was like 7 months. And I could confidently say in those men that cheating would have never been a thing. If we were to break up, it would have been of something else. I mean, it's kind of one of those things like, look at your partner and look at their past, look at their friend group. What do they do? What are their value system like? And I'll tell you who they are.
Yeah, I think it's just, I hear what you're saying. I think it's just very naive because let me give you an example. You have a cross around your neck, so I'm going to assume you're a Christian. Do you know how many pastors have had affairs?
Oh, yeah. One of the old churches that I used to go to.
They did things that were against their morals. They probably have the cleanest track record of all people. Probably waited till marriage to have sex. And there's pastors all over the country all the time.
I totally agree with you in that sense. I'm not saying I just go into a relationship and go like, I know that they're perfect and they're not going to do anything wrong. Like, of course, you have to walk in with a guarded heart, and you have to walk in with caution, and you have to have somebody prove to you over time, who they are. You don't just like walk into a relationship and just automatically assume like, oh my gosh, this person's amazing and they're only ever going to do amazing things. But with time and action meeting their words, and loyalty and commitment is being proven, at some point, you can relax a little bit.
Could I say, please?
Yeah. Let me just come back to you in a second, Holly, because I know that you want to chime in here. Yeah, I can relax a little bit, but I still won't park my $300,000 car in a shitty neighborhood overnight because I know there's a probability that something could happen, right? it's just a matter of managing risk. And I think that's what it really boils down to. And you, as the guy leading the relationship, has to decide what is it that you're willing to tolerate, because you're going to get out of life what you tolerate. Holly, you wanted to chime in?
I think if you're in a relationship and you're not allowed to go on a trip with your friends, that is not right, and vice versa. If you're in a relationship where there's no trust, where you can't have friends, you can't go on holiday with your friends, that's just not right. I think it's a silly conversation to be like, it's all about temptation. It's not about temptation. It's about like whether they're a good person or not. You shouldn't be in a relationship with someone if they are going to cheat on you. It's not about temptation. People don't cheat if they're good to you. It's not like temptation isn't like something that affects everyone. It's like people don't have to cheat. They just do it because they are the worst.
And that's the speech that every woman will give his man before she goes off to Ibiza and fucks a bunch of guys from Italy.
And also, it's like the same thing. Like, that is like a statement that a man will make to his woman right before he goes and cheats. I mean, I've seen it countless of times in some of my girlfriends' relationships where like the guy legitimately was like, I love you and I'm not going anywhere and we're blah or whatever. And then he like does a double take at the end of it. It's like kind of maybe, I don't know.
And to be clear, Holly, like if you're the kind of gal that likes to travel with your girlfriends, I think you should do that. It's the guy's position to state you're just not the kind of gal for me, so I'll pass, sort of thing. Like if you were to come at a guy, hear me out. If you were to come at a guy and say, hey, I dig your vibe, I want to be in a relationship with you, what are we? Like, I want to build something together. And then in the next few weeks, you say something along the lines, but I want to go to, Greece for a month in the summertime with my girlfriends. A smart guy will say, that's fine if you want to do that, but you're not the kind of gal that I want to be in a relationship with. So have fun. A
smart guy is crazy because it's just like, sorry, I've lost my words.
What about that makes him crazy?
No, I don't mean like he is crazy. I just mean that statement is crazy to say that it's smart to dump me to want to go on holiday with my friends.
Why not?
Why should I have to?
You're not special. There's lots of women out there that won't do something like that.
So, Holly, you said that you were 19, correct?
Yeah.
And how many relationships, and I would say long-term adult relationships have you been in? And there's no
2, but is that necessary? No,
it doesn't. It's no right or wrong thing. I was just wanting to know. So here, I'm going to put it into example. Say there's a man, we're going to name him Jimmy, comes along, and Jimmy checks off every single one of your boxes. I recently was in this position, so this is coming from my heart. Jimmy checks off all of your boxes, and maybe even then some on top of that. So now you're in love with Jimmy and it's amazing and your life is flourishing and you're even growing as a person with Jimmy. And there's a deal breaker that comes along and you disagree with it. However, you want to be with Jimmy and you see a future with Jimmy. You want to marry him. You want to have, his children. And then this deal breaker kind of comes along and it's kind of like, I love you and I want this relationship to work, but I don't want you going on that trip because I, as a man, don't feel comfortable with that. And to put your relationship on the line for a trip rather than a person that is willing to dedicate their life to you, that is showing respect by not going on the trip. And someday when you are in a relationship with a man, something like that will happen because that is life. And you have to look at that person and go, that makes me sad because of course I want to go on this trip. However, I love you regardless. I choose you regardless. So we're staying together. I'm not going on that trip and I'll find another way to celebrate, with my girls another time.
I think for sure, if I'm in a long-term relationship with someone and they tell me not to go, but then actually if you're looking at it why am I not allowed to go on holiday with my friends? I'm not going to do anything. I know I'm not going to do anything. I wouldn't do anything even if I was single.
I think what it boils down to, Holly, is that if you're in a relationship with a man,
of trust.
no, if you're in a relationship with a man, then you don't behave single. And it's only single women that go on trips like that with their girlfriends.
What do you mean it's only single women who go on trips with their girlfriends? It's
If you're in a
only people who have
relationship with a
friends to go
man and you
with their
love him and you
friends.
respect him, you do not go away on girls' trips like that.
And he's not
But it's
saying
not-
that you
it's not
can't
like a
like go
girl
on a
trip.
trip at all. He's just saying like it's the type of trips where you go to Vegas
Correct.
and whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I said that I recently just went to New York to a cottage to do finger painting and wine nights with a bunch of girls at an Airbnb for my best friend's
Have a
bachelor.
blast.
And we had a blast. And
That's what I'm thinking of. My fault. My fault. I didn't think you were talking about Vegas.
No, we're
But-
talking
Yeah.
about things like Vegas, Ibiza, going to Greece for a month,
Okay,
things
but-
like that. Like that's what
yeah,
what
like,
leads to trouble, right?
I'm talking about going on holiday with my friends, vacation. You
Well, you
in
have
the
to
US
define the
like to call
holiday. We
it.
were talking about something like Vegas earlier, right?
Yeah, but like, you know, vacation, like
Okay. So we agree.
wherever you like to go, like party week, but I'm gonna get drunk like and do all these crazy things, but I'm not gonna like
What crazy
sleep
things?
around with people. All the drugs
Where,
and
and
stuff.
like, where are you going that you're getting drunk?
But I'm not. Sorry.
I'm confused because I thought we were talking about Halston's example where we're going to a lake house
Yeah.
with the girls, and now you're talking about
No,
getting drunk
I'm
and doing
saying-
crazy things.
I'm saying the trips that you're talking about, like going to Ibiza and Vegas and things.
Mhm.
If I were to go and do those, I know, and if I was in a relationship, they would know that I would go and get drunk and do like all the crazy things, but I wouldn't go and cheat on someone because I was in a relationship.
Can you,
And that's
get
just-
drunk in London at 19? Like, can you drink legally?
Yes, you can drink at
Okay.
18.
Okay.
It's a little bit different in the UK. You know, parents usually sit down and pass a pint over to their 14-year-old.
Oh, yeah,
and
sorry,
say,
I
"What you like?"
I forget that you can't drink until 21. I'll be dust at 21.
Natalie, does that clarify? Like, are we?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I share your perspective with like kind of the man leading by setting certain boundaries in the relationship to protect it, because as I've stated, essentially anything can happen. You know, no one is above that type of temptation. I think kind of when you get down to the nitty gritty, there's going to be some circumstantial things that each couple would have to discuss and decide together. But at the end of the day, I think if you respect the man, there's going to be some sacrifices you have to make, and that might one day be a Vegas bachelorette trip for that man.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's like one of the things that you have to sort of give up if you want to be in a committed relationship. I mean, if you love the man and you want to be in a relationship with a man, then why would you put yourself in a situation or a circumstance that could compromise that, where you would betray him? Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Just smart.
I agree, but I actually have a point about not allowing your partner to go on like girls trips. I hear the echo. I think it's quite dangerous then they don't get to experience temptation. So if they avoid all situations where they don't face temptation, they won't get the practice and experience of resisting it. So eventually, if that scenario that does come along, then they won't know how to resist it because they've never encountered that situation before.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, but like as a guy, if you're smart, you're going to vet her for relationship material based on her past. Like a woman vets a guy based on his future, right? Is this guy competent? Can he make money? If I'm going to have a family, is he going to be able to provide a roof over our head and take care of the mortgage? Because he solve problems, or is he a bitch and cries and falls apart when life struggles come his way? Like that's kind of how you size up a guy. I think with men, it's different. We have to size up a woman by her past. And if she's had a promiscuous past, that's a pretty strong telltale sign that will likely continue into the future. You know, you go back to our grandparents, great-grandparents era. When they got married, they had sex for the first time. Today, when you get into a relationship, you generally are supposed to stop having sex with other people, right? So like the social contracts change considerably. But when it comes to the whole relationship component of it, I don't want a chick like, oh, okay, well, let me go out to see if I can resist temptation. It's like if you've indulged in promiscuity, you clearly don't have the capacity to resist temptation, right? Your notch count should be as low as possible to 0 when you get into a relationship with a guy committed, in the sense that it leads towards family building, you know, stuff like that, right? Promiscuity is incredibly harmful to people today. And I think that, like, There was this press piece this week, Spencer. I can't remember the gal's name. She was an OnlyFans creator, but she was bragging all over social media about having sex with, I don't know, 1,057 guys in a span of 20 hours or something like that. Like, this is normalized now, right? It's freaking disgusting.
Bonnie Blue, I think, is her name.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I don't think it really directly addresses what I was saying. I was saying more, if a woman's never experienced that temptation before, like out with her friends,
Mm-hmm.
in the context of a relationship, then
So you're saying that it has to be tested somewhere where...
No, I'm saying that if she's never been in situations where that could be a possibility,
Mhm.
and then for some reason it becomes inevitable, like you're out,
I mean,
with friends, and she won't have the experience and the skill set. And
I'm not sure I agree with that, because women are offered sex almost daily. I mean, whether it's overtly stated, but it's filling up your car with gas, going to the grocery store, going to a bar, having dinner with your girlfriends. Like, men hit on women routinely. Women don't hit on men consistently like that, not even close to those levels.
Yeah,
You
I
see what
don't
I'm saying?
agree with it at all. Women
you
get hit
have
on all the time.
Go ahead, Spencer.
Yeah, like, women get hit on all the time. You already know how to reject a dude. The problem with these trips is that you can even go on the trip thinking, I'm never going to cheat. You can say that to yourself. I wouldn't do that. I'd never do that. But things change once you already agree to go to Vegas without your boyfriend, and then you agree to go out to a club that some promoter asked you to come out to, and then he brings you up on stage, and now you're behind your favorite DJ, and it's like things just escalate over time, and you end up in a situation that you never thought you were going to be in, and something bad happens.
But that can happen anywhere. That can happen when you're at home in your home city.
But I think
That's
there's a
not going to
difference.
happen
But
when you go out to a cabin to go finger painting, though.
there's a difference between inviting temptation and experiencing it on a day-to-day. So, I mean, you open your DMs on Instagram, and if you're an attractive woman, there's some temptation there. People are approaching you, people are hitting on you. You go to a coffee shop, you go to dinner, you go sit at the bar. Like, if you're an attractive woman, there's temptation around you all the time. But to their point, you seeking it out by going to a male strip club is inviting in the temptation. You are not protecting the man. You're not respecting him. To Spencer's point, you end up on stage, you know, the stripper's giving you a lap dance. Everyone's recording their phone. Before you know it, you are disrespecting your man to the highest extent. So you're inviting that in.
You're acting as if women just have no control over anything. Like, you see a DM from a man and you just have to have sex with them. You don't. It's like, if you're in a relationship,
let's
you just
be honest,
don't
Holly,
cheat on
most
them.
guys that message you or DM you aren't the kind of guy that you want anything to do with, right? So
doesn't really matter.
No, it does matter, because resisting an offer from a guy that you're not attracted to doesn't matter. Resisting an offer to a guy that you're actually attracted to is what matters. You see what I'm saying here? Like, have you ever heard about the loyalty test?
No.
Okay, so the loyalty test, I mean, I've seen this done a few times where it's like, I don't know, pick a famous TikToker, social media influencer that you like. And then what would end up happening would be your guy might contact this influencer and say, hey, Chad, you know, my girl follows you. I'm thinking about marrying her. I really dig her vibe. Do me a favor and loyalty test her. And then what he'll do is this guy, Chad, will message you and say, hey, Holly, like your stuff, been following you for a bit. How you doing? You in London? I'll be there next week. You want to grab a drink? Blah, blah, blah. Most women fail that loyalty test, right? So it's very, very different when, you know, you look at the buildup of the offers, because the vast majority of the approaches, the offers that women get are from guys that they're genuinely not attracted to. It's like the same thing when guys go, oh, I'm absolutely loyal. I would never cheat on my wife. Dude, if you would never have the opportunity to cheat on your wife because you're a fat slob that doesn't make any money and doesn't even have sex with your wife anyway, that's not loyalty, right? Like, you actually have to have options to be loyal.
But I just don't understand, like, maybe it's just me, but I just don't understand what is it not just normal to be loyal? Like,
Are you a
I don't know
virgin?
how to word this.
Are you a virgin?
No.
Right. So you're clearly not loyal, because otherwise you'd still be with the first guy that you had sex with.
Sorry?
Was that confusing to you?
Yeah.
You're not loyal because you're not
What?
with the guy that you had sex with that took your virginity. The definition of monogamy, broadly speaking,
Is no one
throughout.
else finding this crazy?
Okay, well, we can talk about that in a
Rich.
minute, but hear me out. But the definition of monogamy throughout the animal kingdom is these two partners stay together for life. Like, they mate for life, right? Like, that's what monogamy is. So that's what loyalty is. So when I hear, gals on the show saying, oh, well, I'm loyal, it's like, okay, yeah, well, you've been loyal to who? Like all 18 of the guys that you've been with? That's not loyalty. Loyalty is staying with the guy that takes your virginity. That's loyalty.
I
No,
don't
it's
We can talk about that if you
not.
like to.
I think loyalty, when it's not in the equation, you can't not be loyal. If it was never in the equation. For example, if I don't know, a random person had slept with someone and it was like a very casual affair, loyalty was never in the equation. So you can't say that they weren't loyal to the person because it was
Right.
never expected.
So that's what I'm talking about when somebody throws like the whole, like, I'm a loyal person out there, because you're not, right? Like, if you've been promiscuous, if you've had sex with other men, then you're not monogamous, you're not loyal. Because that's what the definition of monogamy is in the animal kingdom. Male, female, they mate for life. That's it. One of the albatrosses goes out to sea and gets eaten by a shark or something like that. It never comes back. That other mate never mates again.
So would you say the same for men, since like men typically have also like a record of sleeping around as well? Like, or I
Oh,
guess
yeah.
for my generation is like hookup culture is really popular.
Yeah.
Would you say the same for men?
Yeah. I mean, promiscuity, I think, hurts men and women differently. I think it hurts women more than it hurts men. But generally speaking, I don't think humans are monogamous. I mean, there's a chapter in my book where I talk about humans being, promiscuous primates. So I think that if you want to be monogamous, it has to be a choice. But like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can talk about that if you like.
I think as far as the whole trip thing and like respect and all of that, I think there's an underlying like lack of value here. Like, if you go a layer deeper underneath this, if you feel like you're entitled as a wife or as a girlfriend to go on any trip that you ever want to go on with whoever, wherever, and your man should have no say in that, then that's feminist propaganda that has infiltrated your brain, because you are no longer placing that man on the pedestal that he should be on, assuming that you've chosen someone worthy of being on that pedestal. And so there's a lack of value for him that is being reflected in your lack of respect by basically just saying, F you, I can do whatever I want. And that does go both ways. But I think that's why we're kind of like dancing around, well, what about this? What about that? But if you just break it down, there has to be a mutual respect for each other, especially the men, because nowadays we're just brainwashed basically with these ideas, this propaganda, this programming that we should be able to do whatever we want. And any man who tells us otherwise is not worthy, or he's crazy, or he's controlling. And that's not true.
Are you familiar with how promiscuity affects women, Holly? There's been lots of studies on this.
How does promiscuity affect women?
Do you plan on getting married? Like, do you want to have a family? Do you want to have children?
Yeah, I guess so. Whatever life throws at me.
I mean, that's not a plan. That's kind of go with the flow, isn't it?
Yes.
Because, I mean, it's something that I think that was managed a lot better years ago than it is today. Because now it's just kind of like go with the flow, whatever life throws at me. Maybe I'll have a family if it happens. Maybe if it doesn't, it doesn't matter.
Well,
in the meantime, I'll just
I would
indulge
like
whatever
to
looks like
be-
fun.
I would like to be married and have children, but it's just the way of the world. I can't jinx anything.
But I mean, you can control it to some degree. So here's how you can control it. Because, and again, I mean, there's lots of studies on this. There's lots of papers. I've covered this in videos before. But I think after about 11 partners, your chances of being happy in a marriage are less than 30%. If you're a virgin when you get married, your chances of being happy in a marriage and staying married are as high as 80%.
Okay.
So with every man that you lay with, the chances of you staying married and be happily married diminishes greatly. Does that make sense?
Can I
I
interject?
don't know why you.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just say I don't know why you're coming for me, because I have absolutely not had 11 partners.
I never said
He's
you
not,
did.
he's not coming
And-
at you.
I'm
You
just
were
using some
responding
examples.
to the
No,
conversation.
specifically, he said, do you, Holly, know how promiscuity affects women?
Mhm.
Because you were essentially originally disagreeing with his statements. That's why he directed.
No, I was disagreeing with his statement of being possessive in a relationship because you don't trust them, not about like going and having sex with lots of people.
Okay,
And
well,
he said,
well, we got to that point through our discussion, Holly. Kat, you wanted to interject? You had something that you wanted to contribute or ask?
Yes.
Sorry.
I just wanted to. I'm going to go in with a personal experience. So I'm 26 right now. In my early, like late teens, early 20s, I was going out a lot. And I'm not saying that it's down to maturity or a change of age, but somewhere down the line, through my experiences, something changed and switched inside. Where I no longer go out now. And it was because I used to go to these clubs. So we go out partying in Mayfair. That's what we used to be. That was the scene back in the day. And we used to see all of these girls, and a lot of them were in their 30s or much older, dressed in a certain vulgarity, which didn't appeal to me or no longer appealed to me. And I started to look at it differently. And I said that I didn't want to be like this. I also found myself setting more long-term goals. I said to myself that I wouldn't find my soulmate in a scene like this. So I kind of just stopped engaging in it completely. In terms of what you guys said about holidays, I think it depends, because I think you can have nice girls trips and not do anything crazy. But yeah, in terms of the actual scene, if my partner didn't want me to go clubbing, I would be okay with that now. But it wasn't the case at the beginning. Kind of changed.
Why do you think that changed? Like, why did you change your worldview on that?
I mean, we all have like...
You were the psychology grad, right?
Yes.
And you're how old now, you said?
26.
So what do you think the epoch was? Like, what was the catalyst that changed your belief with that?
Well, I don't want to base this on I don't want to base this on neuroscience, but they say that the prefrontal cortex of a female fully develops in your mid-20s. That could be the scientific reason for it.
Did you get any guidance from your father or from an older brother or anything like that?
Maybe, yes. I come from an Albanian background.
Right.
So they're quite stern on like the maternal clock and the whole finding an appropriate partner.
I mean, most cultures are like that around the world still today. It's just in a lot of Western cultures, especially in the US and Canada and England and Australia, and in large urban centers, they've kind of set that aside and said, just, you know, do whatever feels right, like have fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
No, I noticed a lot of things changed completely. Like, for example, if I would go out on a date now, I would make sure that I'd set like a few rules for myself, and I've actually advised other girls the same thing. For example, making sure that the first 3 dates are not done in the evening. Like that's something I advise, because I felt like it set the tone, a more sexual tone, to go on a date in the evening.
That's wise.
It might not be the case. It might not be the case. I just felt, and growing up in the city, what Holston was saying about hookup culture is a very big thing. Very big. It's seen as cool. That's why media glorifies the whole, I don't know, a guy having many bitches. You know what I mean?
But I mean, like, not to pick on Holly, but that's how most younger women are. I think most of the gals on the panel, like even, you know, the older ones that are in their, you know, late 20s, and even Natalie at 31, realizes that they followed that trend in their early 20s. They kind of went through the party years. But, you know, I think that it's a disservice for parents, especially fathers and older brothers, to not have a conversation with their daughters and their younger sisters and say, hey, you know, like men and women are different, right? And the things that you'll see men doing doesn't necessarily mean that they're good for you to indulge in as well, right? I think that's a lost conversation. I think a lot of the times women will push back on that and say, well, why are you controlling? You know, this is, you know, girls just want to have fun. You know, I mean, Cyndi Lauper wrote this song back in the 80s. Girls just want to have fun. This isn't something new. I mean, this is from hormonal birth control, right? From like the, whatever it was, the 60s or something like that. Like this is where the tide sort of shifted, where it was like all of a sudden now you can have safe sex and nobody gets pregnant. It's a lot easier.
No, yeah, for sure. I found like later on that my tolerance for bullshit was like this. I couldn't take it anymore. Like some things more, I just wouldn't settle. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I think also as you get older, you develop more respect for other people, especially romantic partners. When you're young, everything's so hormonal, everything's so in the now. Whereas when you're older, you plan more long term. So you think about the other person in the equation much more than when you're younger. It's just
I think
that's grouse.
No, yeah, I think you're right, and I think there's a reason why a lot of women tend to end up with partners who kind of resemble the character traits that their father would have, and I think there's a reason for that. There's a well-respected reason for that as well.
Yeah. Let me just grab the super chat real quick because somebody threw this up here earlier before I forget. He says, have the women seen the video of the British woman Lily Phillips who slept with 100 men in a day? She looked really broken after going through that, and she's apparently worried that she won't get a boyfriend now. What do you guys think about that story? That was a different OnlyFans creator. That was about a month ago. There was a video that was circulated on.
I haven't seen that one.
I think that's not really my problem. She can do what she likes.
Mm-hmm.
I have the clip here, Rich, if you want me to pull it up.
Yeah, why don't you put it up on the screen so the gals can see it, and we'll sort of talk about it if you want to play it.
I actually watched the whole documentary on her. It was like an hour.
Where was the documentary? That was on YouTube or Netflix?
It was on YouTube. It was on
yeah.
YouTube. There was a guy who just like filmed basically the whole experience from start to finish.
You got it queued up, Spencer?
Yep.
There you go.
In my head right now, I can think of like 5, 6 guys, 10 guys that I remember, and that's it. But it's just, I don't know, it's just weird, isn't it? Like, if I didn't have the videos, I wouldn't have known I've done 100, you know? But yeah. I think that was kind of the hard part, is like conversing with them, and like when they'd kind of be like, oh, like we've only had 2 minutes or 3 minutes and you said 5 on the message.
Did someone say that to you?
Yeah. And obviously it just makes me feel so bad.
Do you think you should feel bad about that?
I guess when you've promised something to people who support you, it's kind of hard to let them down.
But it's up to you, right? Like when you know.
Yeah.
Have you even processed, do you think, what's happened?
Not yet. God, I won't forget this day, Jesus. In my head right now, I can think of like 5, 6 guys, 10 guys that I remember.
I think that's replayed. Yeah, so I mean, she looks broken. I mean, she's
she's literally
goes on,
crying.
Yeah, she goes on from there crying, you know, wondering if it was the wisest choice in the world. But it's like, I don't think that things like this should be celebrated. It's like, you know, going for the world record, whether it's 100 in a day or 1,056 or whatever the new one was. It's like, this is something that we used to shame. And, you know, today it's like, I don't know what you said earlier, Holly, you know, before that went up, but you said something like, you know, I think if that's what she wants to do, then that's what she should do.
Yeah, innit?
Yeah, I don't think the approach.
How's that working out for society, though?
To do that, then she should do that.
It's not society's problem. It's no one's problem but hers.
Well, it is, because when you glorify it.
How is it your problem? Has she had sex with you?
No, but it's.
Exactly. It's not your problem.
Hear me out. It contributes negatively to the fabric of society. Promiscuity like that is not good. If that's just one gal doing it, and 100 is not that far of a reach for, you know, the average gal today in her 20s into her 30s, you know, that's a number that's been achieved by many women. It's not that abnormal anymore. but that's something that contributes to the destruction of the fabric of society, right? You know, we talked earlier about family formation and marriage, and they stopped collecting the data after 11 partners. After 11 partners, the chances of you being happily married and committed to a guy goes down to less than 35%. So how are we supposed to replace the population? How are we supposed to improve society if everybody's just banging everybody in a non-committed fashion? And then we just go, oh, you know, we should just do whatever we want. I think things like that should be pointed at and said, that's shameful, stop it.
I have to interject here. I've not heard a single person celebrate Lily Phillips or the other British girls' achievements. I've not heard a single
Damn
person.
right.
I've not heard a single person say, "Oh, that's commendable. That's moral." Every single reaction I've seen online in person has been like an instinctual disgust. So I don't know. I
think it's a disgust from the men mostly. I don't see a lot of women shaming it.
I maybe with different algorithms, but I've seen plenty.
Because women don't care.
That's not true.
Well, we know that you don't
This
care.
is an extremist scenario, though.
Yeah, no, it ended up on my side of TikTok, and I personally saw a lot of women just like, and it's really sad. Like, I think the women are more directing it in a base of like, wow, like that, like I hurt for her that she doesn't have enough self-respect and, you know, dignity to not do that. And then I think there's a side of men where it's just like, this is disgusting. But I personally have seen the side of women being like, what is she doing? I wouldn't be surprised if there's also a side of women just being like, it's her body, her choice, she can do whatever she wants. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw something like that.
I would imagine there's probably both. I would never associate with any woman or man who praises that behavior. So personally, I don't see it in my life, but I think the one thing that everyone should be in agreement on is that she is broken. Like Rich said, she's literally the feeling that she's describing where she's saying, I can only remember 5 or 6 of the people. That's called disassociation. She just went through a severely traumatic experience and she has completely disassociated from her mind. That's fucked up. Like, that's a problem. And she did that to herself.
Here's the interesting thing, and Moff just mentioned it there in the chat. There was a lot of social media posts that I saw where they were condemning the men. They weren't condemning her, but they were shaming the men for having slept with her. And it's like, she was the one that did the roll call, laid on her back and spread her legs for all these guys.
I think both sides are disgusting.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like,
But
no, going
a lot of the press pieces that we saw around that time focused on shaming the men for indulging in it. And it's like, we didn't see a lot of press pieces, especially from the mainstream media or like the mainstream media blogosphere sort of space, shaming her for being a hoe.
I think because the PC culture, it's a lot more implicit than explicitly going like, oh, she's a slut or she's sexually promiscuous. I think it's a lot more implicit around the way they phrase it, like the kind of words they use. I think just in this environment, you can't straight up judge a person's individual choice without risk getting cancelled. So I don't.
Yeah, and that speaks to the societal problem that Rich was hitting on. Like, we have a serious issue in this culture with women being too free. Your legs are too open. You have too many bodily choices. Like, you know, tradition and values have just gone out the window.
Like, here's one right now. Shame on men. Shame on the men exploiting Lily Phillips. Like, it's the men's fault that she's a hoe. You know, this is a press piece that, you know, came out. This is just one of several that we, saw during that time.
I mean, honestly, like, why can't it be both? It's disgusting that, like, you know, it's disgusting that a lot of men participated in that, but, you know,
men are simple. I mean, you give them the opportunity to have sex and they'll indulge in it.
Yeah.
I think it's still disgusting.
Yeah, but
for
is
both
that a
sides,
man?
though.
Isn't like part of being a man like being able to have discipline and self-control?
Yeah, you'd think so. But when it comes to sex, if a woman offers a guy sex, he's going to throw it at it, right? I mean, there's a lot of dorks out there that don't get it. And you know, to be an OnlyFans follower, paying her $9.99 a month, and she does some roll call and says, hey, I'll be at this location on this date. I need 100 guys to come out. It's pretty easier for her to do something like that. I'm not saying it's right. Like, these guys have serious issues. If they're going to line up and be guy number 77 out of the 100, like, you're a real loser, you know, at that point in your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, they deserve the shame as well too. But when the press pieces are all shitting on the guys, it's like, give me a fucking break. I mean, you know, she was the one that set this up. She was the one that indulged it. She's trying to hit the world record. She's making a documentary out of this. Like, she's trying to monetize her vagina, basically, is what she's doing. It's like, come on.
Yeah. And she actually denies that it's about the money. She was on an interview with Candace Owens, and she just tried to really double down that this wasn't about money and it was her own fantasy. And
Sure.
this is giving back to her fans, which is,
And here's the
just
worst
total
part. Her
bullshit.
mom's apparently her manager.
Yeah.
Like her
Yeah.
mom
mom's a- and
manages.
her mom's
the-
That is
abusive.
crazy.
That's
Yeah,
nuts.
that's
I got a
something
clip
happened
here
with
from the
Lily
Bonnie Blue
Phillips.
one as well that
Yeah, I
shows
think-
guys actually lining up for this thing.
Yeah, go ahead if you want to put it up.
Pull this one up here.
I'm going to do a world record of 1,000 men in 24 hours. Well, 12 hours actually, so it's going to be very quick. I'm excited. The only thing I'm nervous about, I'm like, what if people don't turn up?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I am going to do a world record.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously turned up in droves. It's pretty simple.
I think that's
Lining
it's
up
fine
on the
from
stairs,
a social
like
point of view. I just
What's
think
that,
from
mate?
like a hygiene point of view, even not even social values, culture, whatever. Just from a hygiene point of view, what man would want to go after like 80 men have been, or in this case, 900?
Yeah, that's the
what,
point that I made earlier.
Yeah, what
Straight
woman
after
would
do.
want to have 80 different men inside her, like in one day? It's insane. But I don't think there's like a gender difference when it comes to the disgust.
Can I ask a question to the guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think makes men do something like that? I mean, to be willing to be number 77 out of 100, like
Well,
what causes
first of
that?
all, they're probably subscribed to her OnlyFans, right? Because that's who she's doing the roll call out to, sort of thing. So these guys are losers by default. Like, you're a simp if you give money to if you're paying $9.99 a month to see pictures of her butthole, you're basically a simp. So let's start from that perspective. Guys are losers. If they had options, then they wouldn't be paying $9.99 a month to some girl that's getting $9.99 a month from, I don't know, 5,000 other guys or whatever the count is. I think what was that gal that we talked about a few weeks ago, Spencer, that was OnlyFans, Rose something. She made 43 million. Her entire income last year was more than the entire NBA payroll. She made 43 or $44 million off OnlyFans.
There's that girl who just dropped out of the WNBA and became an
Right.
OnlyFans model and
I saw
instantly
that.
grew her
Australian
income.
girl, yeah. So this is all happening because of simps. So I blame the simps for contributing to this part of the economy, right? And there's so then you ask questions. Well, what creates simps? And it's like weak households. Guys that aren't tested, guys that aren't told how to deal with rejection, guys that aren't taught competency skills, guys that aren't put into combat sports. They're the same nerds that are said, oh, Billy, just be yourself. And Billy hangs out in his basement, smoking weed, playing video games 7 days a week, goes to his part-time job at Walmart, from time to time, and probably goes on some Reddit forum about how he hates bitches or something like that, but will also subscribe to an OnlyFans for $9.99 a month, right? So yeah, like there's a whole ecosystem of moving parts and things going on there. It sucks, and I can't fix it. Like, people are, Rich, you should be harder on the simps. It's like, how much harder can I be on these guys? It's like, I tell you to pick up heavy shit and put it down. Learn how to make fucking money. Learn competency skills. Most guys can't even change a tire on a car, right? How many guys do you know that if you had a flat tire on your car could probably solve that problem? No, you're probably going to have to call a tow truck or your dad or something like that. Most guys can't even deal with basic skills that they would have learned from their father or grandfather, a generation or 3 generations ago or something like that. So I think we have a generation of weak men, but I also think that we have a generation of masculinized women too, that are starting to take on the behaviors and the characteristics that men have sort of left a vacuum to, right? So like, women are becoming more masculinized and men are becoming more feminized. And it's like, that's why, we see a lot of women today. They're like, well, where are all the good men? Like, how do I find a good guy? Because every guy that I see is a pussy.
100%.
The truth is that most guys, the truth is that a lot of guys aren't even having sex. I think the number is 30% of men haven't had sex in like the last year.
Yeah.
What age
And
frame?
for most of these guys
Under the
who
age,
are
I
going
think, of
to do
33.
this, and for most of these guys that are going to this, lining up to be that 1 in 1,000 dude who's having sex with her, like, most of these guys, she's probably the most attractive woman that he has ever had sex with. He's
Yeah,
never
like
had
Spencer,
sex
if I
with someone
told
that hot.
you I'll pay you $10,000 to be guy number 78 in Lily's next bangathon, would you do it?
God,
Right.
God, no. I'm actually
I would be
amazed
embarrassed
at
to
the
stand in that
thought
lineup.
process of some of these guys. Yeah, like at what point, for some of these guys, at what point in the line do they like start to question it? They're like,
Yeah, like,
guy number one,
can you imagine
guy
being
number
in the
two,
lineup of
how about
1,056
6, 7?
guys?
Like,
You know, looking around and just being like, yeah, you know, we're all gonna do this today. Lose. Like,
I don't think the blood's in their brain. I think it's somewhere else. I don't think.
well, that's the point that I'm making, though, right? I mean, if you have better options, I mean, if you're squared away as a guy, if you're sorted, you're not going to be, you know, first of all, signing up for OnlyFans, let alone putting yourself in a room with 100 or 1,000 other guys that are also lining up to do the same thing that the other guy. Like, I would be embarrassed. Like, you know, you ever see that stand-up comic, Sebastian, you know, the Italian guy is like, aren't you embarrassed? Like, I think of that guy when I consider a room of 100 guys lining up to do that. It's nuts.
yeah, these guys don't have attractive options. They don't have women who want to have sex with them. So they're out here resorting to things like OnlyFans and just simping behavior. Because why? Because they haven't put in the work to level up and become a man who is attractive, who women want.
Yeah, I think it proves the point that OnlyFans is only making the problems worse. It's not like freeing women or giving them some sort of independence, but it's really just enabling men to continue to be simps, to use your word.
Yeah, there's no, and like, shame simps. I mean, if you see a guy simping, shame him. You know, like, you're a simp. Tell him, like, this is an unequal exchange of value, right? It just doesn't make any sense. I think that shaming works. You know, some people call it bullying. Sure, whatever you like. You know, in school, if you got bullied for whatever, you know, the clothes that you were wearing, or because you were too geeky, or because of your haircut, you tend to fix that behavior. It's the same thing with fat shaming. You know, we hear today, oh, you can't fat shame. It's like, yeah, it actually works. If you tell somebody that they're unattractive because they're too heavy, they in the past would do something about that. Today, now it's like, oh, you're beautiful at any weight, girl. It's like, that's bullshit. That's unhealthy. That's diabetic. You probably have bad joints. You have cardiovascular health issues, right? Like, let's get back to a place where we're honest with people and tell them how things really are. But you know, we try to bubble wrap everybody now.
And people know it's bullshit because now everyone's taking Ozempic. So
right. See, that's a great freaking point. Right?
Yeah. What happened to body positivity? They just abandoned it, started
So let's just
Ozempic.
stab ourselves with a pharmaceutical that's supposed to solve that problem. What's that?
Body positivity is there alongside beauty standards. It's not like beauty standards are a much bigger thing than body positivity is. People will always want to be
standards
skinny.
are a bigger thing than body positivity. I'm not sure I follow you.
Yes.
I think she's saying that the effect of beauty standards has a much bigger effect than the effect of body positivity.
Well, body positivity is sort of discounting health metrics, is what I've noticed, right?
No, like if you're talking about someone who is like massive, if you're talking about someone who is like massive, then like sure, yeah, say whatever you want. But body positivity is like people will have the same weight, but they'll put it on in different ways. Like people who are shorter will be fatter, and they'll be believed for being fat, but someone who's the exact same weight is a bit taller, etc., etc. Body positivity is important, but there, like, a much bigger thing is like eating disorders and body image issues, which is a massive thing today and absolutely has not gone out the window. No one thinks they're beautiful now, not at all, specifically because of TikTok and things that say body positivity. Eating disorders and body image issues are massive, and body positivity is not as big as you're acting it out to be. And also, I don't know why you have a problem with it.
Well, the cultural movement of body positivity, which I feel was really heightened in 2020. I'm not sure how old you were back then, but that movement, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to tell you a story really quick. So there was a magazine cover on Cosmo, the cover of Cosmo.
I know what you're talking about with Tess Holiday.
And it says, "This is health," and it has a morbidly obese woman. the cover of the magazine says this is health, and I posted that to my personal Instagram story and shamed it. I said, this is not healthy. Why are we pretending that this is healthy? This woman probably has heart disease. She's diabetic. This is not body positive at all. I agree to your point that we should have beauty standards that include bodies of all shapes and sizes, tall, short, wide, thin, all of that. But at least in American culture, body positivity, when it was at its height, was promoting unhealthiness and obesity.
Is that healthy, Holly?
I specifically started my statement off with, if they're massive, then I don't care. Say what you want.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Learn to listen.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. So we're in agreement.
Well, it's also, again, none of your business. You don't have to be commenting on women's bodies.
No, it is my business because it
all.
eats into taxpayer contributions into the health system. It is my business.
What?
Yeah.
In his defense, it does, but I understand everyone, there'll be class issues, access to healthy diets, but I do understand the point where it does take, if it spreads, it becomes
It
like
is my business when I sit on an aircraft and a 400-pound hippopotamus sits beside me and they're overflowing into my seat. Okay. It is my business when it eats up tax revenue to take care of their diabetes, to take care of their cardiovascular health, yes, it absolutely is my business.
Did you hear about the one where a girl claimed the seat beside her because she was overweight and needed it for the extra room?
I'm sure that probably happens all the time.
It's my business when they weigh my luggage and it's 3 pounds over and I have to pay them like $150, but a 400-pound heifer doesn't have to pay a dime more. Yeah, it's my business. I can say something about it if I like. But you don't like that. Go on, say what you have to say, Holly. Go on.
Say it.
It definitely affects our culture and our society.
You can say your things when they affect you, specifically like the aeroplane. Sure, I'll give you that. But then it's just like, you don't have to. Don't worry, my point is useless. You win.
What are the topics we got, Spencer? I've won another one.
I mean, we talked a bit about like loyalty with girls' trips. We also, May said she wanted to bring up the idea of girl or guy best friends while in a relationship.
Okay. In what sense regard? Like girls having guys best friends?
A girl
or
having
guys?
a guy best friend or a guy having a girl best friend while in a relationship.
I mean, what's the question specifically to do with that, May? Just so I have some clarity.
What's your point of view on it? Is it accepted in your relationship?
No.
Maybe not. No.
I mean, I just don't have any interest in doing like social things with women. Not because I don't like women or anything like that. I think women are fantastic. They're beautiful. It's just I don't have the same interest. Like I like shooting guns and driving fast cars and physical competency tests and stuff like that. And that's just like, I mean, I used to train at this dojo, and they put me up against this gal who was an instructor in a Krav Maga sort of test, and it's like I defeated her with basically one arm, tied behind my back. Like I'm not going to compete in those realms. I'm not interested in hanging out in those areas. So I just don't have a lot of like socially and in groups, or if you're doing like a family event, cool, whatever. Let's hang out. We'll play cards together. We'll bust out a board game and, 6 of us will sit down and hang out and shoot the shit. But you're never going to catch me going like, hey, May, I'm going to hang out with my girl best friend and we're going to have dinner together or brunch or something like that. Like that's what girls do. And by the same token, it's one of the no-go zones that I encourage guys to be attentive to, because one of the things that women kind of do that's tricky, and they don't really know it, because like the guys want to bang them and they kind of know the guys want to bang them, but they're like, oh, we're just friends. But, by the same token, nobody bangs more girlfriends and wives than he's just a friend, right? So it's like, one of the tests that I could use on a gal is like, she says to me, oh, he's just a friend of mine, or I've known him for a while, or, we dated 10 years ago, but nothing came of it, so we're just friends sort of thing. If I were to say, okay, well, pass me your phone, I'm going to text him right now, hey, I'm horny, let's bang, the vast majority of the guys will be like, I'm coming over, right? because that's why they're there. They're usually there because they're trying to friend zone their way into your pants.
That's a very
Does that make sense?
insight. That does make sense, but I honestly think it's nowadays, especially male-female relationships, friendships, they have a lot more to contribute. It shows you perspective. For example, if you surround yourselves with just friend group of the same gender, then your perspectives aren't going to be that diverse. You could come from different backgrounds, but like you said, you have the same interests, probably have a lot of things you agree on. I think having like a diverse gender, whatever, in people around you, it helps you think of things differently. Like this group, for example, you know, we're all very different. And if you just had a podcast with just 8 men, you're probably gonna be agreeing on a lot of things, and you won't understand why some people think the way they do. So I think having male-female friendships, like tight-knit ones, helps you gain insight into why for example, if I have a boyfriend and my boyfriend has a girl best friend, that girl best friend will give a lot of insight into why I do certain things that I do that maybe he doesn't want to talk to me about. Not every relationship is completely honest and open, which it should be, but not everything is. And I think having that perspective in his life actually makes me feel comfortable, given that I've met the best friend and I'm comfortable with them.
So you think men should have female friends to get perspective from the female angle?
I think so. I think for both genders, yeah. I think it's a lot of
the problem with that is that women can't really tell the truth, if we're being honest.
Okay, now you lost me. You had me.
Yeah.
Well,
Are you saying
let's
that
use the conversation that we just had with Holly about fat shaming and people that don't look after their body. You know, like you'll hear some
For
stuff
real.
like, oh, you know, if that's how they want to look, or if they want to be promiscuous, or, you know, if they feel healthy in their body, blah, 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 sort of thing like that. It's like women
Blah,
have
blah,
a very,
blah is
very
right.
hard time being direct and honest in conversations because the thing that women will do, and we've noticed this over the last year with these podcasts, is there's an incredible emphasis put on reputation management. So let me explain that. Let's go to Kendall. So we haven't spoken to Kendall yet. You've been awfully quiet. I'm not going to pick on you here, but I want to use you as an example. Kendall, you're 29. You're a house painter. You're single. What are you looking for in a guy?
Oh man. I think my perspective on that has changed, or my opinion on what I want has changed a lot over the years. But I want someone who, I don't so much care about emotional intelligence as I do emotional availability.
Okay.
I want someone who's logical as well, like a happy mix of both of those things. Someone who can provide, but is also okay with me working at the same time. I don't want to be married, so someone who isn't looking for marriage or any more kids.
Where do you live, by the way?
I live in Nashville.
Okay. Do you have kids right now?
I have one, yes.
Okay. So why would you want to get married?
Well, I don't know if my only marriage that I'm divorced now. I got married when I was 18. I used to live in a really strict Christian household, so we were, and so did he. So I think we got married because that's what was expected of us. And it was interesting what you said about like getting married and being a virgin, and if you're a virgin when you get married, that the chances of divorce are only like 20%. And I was like, whoa, I guess I was that 20% that got a divorce when I was a virgin when I got married.
So
yeah,
you mentioned that he would have to provide, but you wouldn't get married. How much money would he have to make?
I'm not looking for someone who is going to provide a lavish lifestyle for me. Like I said, I also want to be able to provide, but I don't want someone who is going to provide everything and then say that like I can't work or I can't, I have to like stay home and
So
manage.
a number, like, does he have to make 70,000, 100,000, 170,000, $250,000?
Like if
Is
we
there a
both
line in the sand that matters?
I haven't really thought about that. I've never had a lot of money. So
If the guy was logical, and ticked off all the other boxes, didn't really care about marriage, he was a nice guy, worked as a Walmart greeter, would that be okay?
hmm Yeah.
See, that's the point that I'm making, ladies, is that you don't want to look bad by saying, I won't choose a guy that is low income as a Walmart greeter. But given the choice, if you have guy A who's a law student and about to become an associate in a firm making $160,000 a year, and a guy that's a Walmart greeter, you're going to choose the law student because he's got that much more potential. See what I'm saying? Like,
did I answer your question correctly?
you
What did you
did,
ask?
absolutely. And you did it exactly the way that every gal does when we ask that question, as far as how much money does a guy need to make, is that you never want to shame the Walmart greeter. You never want to say that's not good enough. Like, that's not going to cut it, right? Like, I can't live off that. That's not going to be able to provide for me. The other thing that I found that was interesting too is that you're sort of like regurgitating the standard narrative, like, I don't want to get married. But at the end of the day, if you were to meet a guy that makes $250,000 a year, like you're, where were you here? House painter, right? Like, how much money did you make last year, roughly? I mean, if you want to ballpark it.
Like 65,000.
Right. So, I mean, 65 grand doing that. But if you meet a guy that makes $250,000 a year, Kevin's the VP of a sales team in some large corporation, you would want to marry that guy, right? Because that's going to make sure that you're looked after. You've got a steady source of income. If you guys have children together, you're not going to be in any kind of trouble, because family law will look after you, right? Because you're the lower income earner in that family. So getting married would be wise, sort of thing. So the point that I was making, May, is that often when you talk to women, you don't get a direct answer as far as what's honest and truthful and accurate. And, in this sort of situation, with Kendall, it's like, what's good for me, sort of thing. So I think that women...
I'm sorry, how does that relate to what I was saying about
So what I'm going to bring you back to is the whole reputation management thing. Is it's very, very difficult to get useful information from women in dialogue when it comes to assessing, situations, because you're very, very careful about managing reputation. You don't want to look like you're judging people as far as their status, their income, their looks, their weight, as we just heard with Holly. But women will routinely disqualify men for committed relationships because of looks, because of weight, because of their income and stuff like that. So, like, me getting feedback from a gal on, I don't know, politics or a geopolitical issue or something like that, it's not what I want to get the information from. Like, I'll get it from my boys. Like, I'll sit down with my council of men and sort of have that conversation with them. I think women are great for companionship. You can take trips with them, have meals, share experiences, do stuff like that together. Obviously sexual intimacy, that's great. But as far as like feedback on world issues or life in general, I'll get that from the boys. That's just my take. I mean, there's guys that'll say, yeah, but Rich, I want to hear her opinion and I want to sit down and have that conversation and be friends with women. But I don't get that.
Are we on boy best friends?
Are we on men's best friends?
I think we're talking about two different things. I meant more, I
Yeah.
wasn't specific enough, but I meant more having that. I think you said this example, having a girl best friend, you're a guy, and you have a girlfriend. That girl best friend will give you insights as to why a girlfriend did something that they did, the psychology behind it,
No.
and help you understand her more.
No, if I want to learn how to catch fish, I'm going to ask a fisherman. I'm not going to ask the fish.
Oh, that's good. I think can I respond to May?
Yeah.
I think it's a slippery slope because there's nothing wrong with having friendships of the opposite sex. That's very normal. That's great. I think the emphasis is on a best friend because, first of all, if you're in a committed relationship, your significant other should be your best friend, right? When it comes to opposite sex. So if there's another best friend in the picture for too long, I think once you cross kind of a certain threshold of the length of time of the relationship, that's inappropriate. And for me, like if I have a boyfriend and he has a female best friend, if he's going to her to talk about me, that's a problem. You come to me to talk about our problems. And also, I don't know that girl. What if she's in love with him and she's feeding him information that's going to make him break up with me or sabotage the relationship? Do you know how conniving women are?
I've often said women's worst enemy is other women.
That's why
Yeah, I
kinda
think
sit with
that's slippery slope territory. And if you're dating a guy who has a female best friend, there has to be like really strict, firm boundaries and expectations.
The same thing
I
happens
have
with guy best friends, especially because there's so many guys out there that are just staying in the friend zone, hoping to get laid one day. When they get the opportunity to start throwing the other guy under the bus, when that girl comes to him asking for relationship advice, he's going to jump on it. He's going to throw that other guy under the bus, hoping that she breaks up with him and that he can sleep with her.
maybe
I
it's
have got
Friends, I'll
a question. Sorry.
I was
sorry, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry,
You
Kat,
go.
go ahead, speak.
Well,
Kat,
no,
go ahead.
it's like, okay. Well, if you're happy for me to speak, one of my best friends, Zach Thomason. Hello. He's gay, and he's got a boyfriend. But when I'm super duper close friends with him. But when I have like been talking to people like before, they would be uncomfortable with the fact that I was super good friends with a boy, even though he's gay and he has a boyfriend now. He didn't at the time, but like, you know, he is properly gay, you can tell. But what is the psychology behind that, in your opinion, as a man?
I think that like even if the guy is gay, that discomfort is coming from like evolution, thousands of years of evolution that build up this like discomfort about your woman having guy best friends. Because a guy who doesn't accept that in his relationship, there's going to be a much greater likelihood that his genes get passed on and that he doesn't end up accidentally raising the other man's kid. So when he sees you being friends with a guy, he sees you being friends with a guy, even if that guy's gay, there's like in his biology, there's a discomfort.
I think it's more socialized, but I do see what you're saying. Like they've been socialized to think that like all of male friends are trying to get in your pants. But I think it's just like a conscious choice to constantly train yourself. If he's gay, there's no sexual interest. Like I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be able to get up if he saw like a woman naked. So
would that guy, Spencer, like, do you think part of that like biological response is that like, what if he's not gay? What if he is trying to sleep with my woman?
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, most men aren't going to be gay, right? And we have like so many years, this massive timeline of you got to worry about other guys coming and taking your girl. So
yeah, the weird thing about that is something like statistically less than 3 or 4% of the male population is homosexual. But when surveyed today, especially in the younger generations, I think it's something like 28% of younger men and women identify with the alphabet soup crowd, the LGBTQ plus, all that sort of stuff. So there's people that will identify in that category that aren't actually supposed to be in that category. It's just they're there because of sneaky fucker game. I don't know if you ever heard about this. No, it's true. Like this actually happens in the.
I believe you. I agree. Actually, I'll tell you.
Yeah, this actually happens in the animal kingdom, where weaker, softer males will pretend to be females to go and mate with the females to sneak in under the radar, and it's called sneaky fucker game, and it happens. So, I think that's why Spencer or most guys would have some hesitancy towards like, oh, he's gay, like really, but there are gay guys out there that just have no interest in women. That's fine too, right? It's just if you said to me, hey, I'm going away for the weekend with my gay friend, I'd be like asking some questions. Okay, well, are you sleeping in the same place, or are you sleeping in different rooms at the hotel, or what's happening here, right? Like, yeah, I'd have some questions for sure.
The other way that I like to think about it is this analogy of a man riding an elephant. And so the elephant in this picture is thousands of years of evolution, and the man riding it is your logical thought process. You might know that this guy's gay and be like, okay, yeah, there's no chance anything's going to happen. But that massive elephant, the thousands of years of evolution, have much more strength on steering what happens and how you feel than your logical thought process.
I agree on the feeling aspect, but not the what happens. Because if a man is truly gay, that shit's not happening.
I mean, what happens as in
He's
like
just
how I
gay.
feel about it. Like,
I,
what are my feelings of this guy being gay? Like, does it make me uncomfortable that this guy's hanging out with you? That's what I mean.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
I personally haven't seen the scenario where a guy pretends to be gay just to lure his way in. However, I'm not saying this to appeal like I'm irresistible, but most of the guys that I've been friends with in the past, I'm no longer friends with them because they have all tried to lure their way in. And I was fully convinced that they wanted to be friends with me. So I agree with it being hard to be friends with.
It's a sad truth. It's a really sad truth. In my last relationship, I had a group of guy friends that were like all the way back from middle school. And I love them dearly. I really do. They're fun to be around. They're fun to hang out with and converse with. And my boyfriend at the time had a tiff with a couple of them in the sense of like, I'm not comfortable with them. And I was sitting there genuinely like, oh my gosh, like, please understand. These are my friends. I love them. They love me. Like, that would never happen. He was like, no, you need to like trust me with this. We ended up breaking up. And it wasn't even 7 days after the breakup. Each of the 4 guys that he had listed while we were together made a move. And it shocked me. It shocked me that I even had to tell him. I was like, you were right. And like, I'm sorry for gaslighting you on that. But like, it is true. Now, have I also had situations where a boyfriend has been uncomfortable with a certain guy and I'm like, that's never going to happen and nothing has ever happened? Yes, I think it can be both. I think
the thing is that it would never happen from your angle because you don't see him as an attractive proposition, but he knows, and you even know at some base level somewhere that the main reason why he's there is because he wants to get in your pants. Like he's that beta in waiting is what we call them. Like they just sort of like hang around hoping that if they stick around and they're a good shoulder to cry on and they're at some point will like you'll see their virtues and just like want to get with them sort of thing, right? Like a lot of women will find like a backup plan. You know, there's some women on this panel that have maybe had this conversation or have a friend that have had this conversation, but it's like they'll find a guy that's like husband material, but not boyfriend material. And they may even overtly tell these guys, hey, you know, you're husband material and I want to keep you around. I don't want to mess that up. But you're not the kind of guy that I want to be intimate with. You're not the kind of guy that I want to call up at, 2:00 on a Saturday or something like that. And, want you to come over and rearrange the guts or anything. But these guys are out there, and women will often put guys in these different categories. And I mean, it's the same thing, the other way with women too. It's like if my brother's wife said to me, hey, let's go for a run. Fine, I'll go for a run. But if she said something to me crazy, like, hey, let's go away to this, I don't know, event or retreat or something like that for a weekend, and we got to grab a hotel so we can go through the event, I'd be asking some fucking question. I'd be like, yo, bro, your wife's fucking, you know what I mean? Like you got to be careful with these things, right? Because the whole reason why we're on this earth is to scatter seed. Guys are here to have sex with women, and women's position is to lock down the best guy that they can get. And that's just what we're here to do. And if you can understand it and accept that and navigate around that, things get a lot easier. What are the topics we got, Spencer?
Halston mentioned something about men wanting 50-50. I think you said you've experienced a lot of men wanting 50-50 or something like that.
I haven't experienced it. It's just I've seen it a lot online of like men and women asking each other, would you go 50-50? Yes, no, why? And I've kind of seen that on a topic of just like female panels, men's panels, and I just thought it would be a topic to talk.
Like 50-50 on a date sort of thing? Like you
On a
pay for your plate,
50-50
I
on
pay
a
for
date, 50-50 in a marriage, 50-50 in a relationship, just
Yeah.
the topic of going 50-50. I
So,
think
so let me ask you this question. So how does that sit with you? Like, would you want to be in a 50-50 type of relationship?
no, I would not.
What about the other gals on the panel? Would you want to be in a 50-50 type of relationship?
Like, are we talking?
I guess so.
I think we have to be specific if it's financially or like.
Yeah, it depends on the situation. Like,
Do you mean financially, Halson, or do you mean financially, decision making, like partnership?
I think I mean like the whole deal, and
Mhm.
even outside of financial, just kind of like.
oh, well, yeah, it should be 50-50.
What?
Like,
Why?
because
Okay,
it's
interesting. Why?
I want to hear everyone's opinion. Okay, we got Halston, we got Holly, May. How about you?
I think we should start with financial. That kind of gives like opens like a door to the rest.
Mhm.
if we're going
I
to
agree.
sectors,
And your opinion on that? Do you think it should be 50-50?
I personally don't mind. I've always was raised by my dad to be like very financially independent.
Mhm.
Where if relationship didn't work out, I wouldn't be stuck in it because of financial constraints. That's
Mm.
always the mindset that my dad's brought me up with. So that's always been my personal opinion. I think 50-50 on like financial things has a certain connotation when it comes to control.
Bless you.
And I'm not sure that I'm personally comfortable with a man like using that to loom over me in terms of like you can't do this because I pay for everything.
Mhm.
That shouldn't be the case. So if it means that he has total control over what I do, which if a person has complete financial control over your life, that makes sense. That's just the way things goes.
Mhm.
I personally, if that's the cost of being the man being completely the breadwinner, going 100-0, then I prefer 50-50. That's my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay. Holly, I think you said 50-50, right? You prefer that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Cat?
50-50 in a relationship, yeah, because there's 100% two people,
Mhm.
50-50.
Okay. What about you, Cat?
I would ask you guys what you think I'm going to say. But
I would assume no for you.
okay, traditionally, my morals and values would say no. I like a man who takes the lead,
Mhm.
and I always stick by that. However, I have been 50-50, and I tend to be 50-50 at the beginning of the relationship or getting to know someone, and I use it as a mating strategy
Mhm.
to test the person, to see if they have those leadership qualities within them. But
Mhm.
also, it's for my own reassurance. Sometimes I feel like when men pay for everything at the beginning, it's because I don't want to be put in a position where I feel like I owe something to them.
You have an obligation.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay.
a intimate.
Yeah.
Some kind. So I don't. Yeah.
Okay. Kendall, I think you had alluded to it earlier, but you're more like 50-50, like you want a partner?
Yes, I don't think it has to be 50-50 necessarily.
Yeah.
You know, if one person makes significantly more and you like live in a home that, you know, has a mortgage that's more than, you know, let me think about how to say this. So like it should be split where it's, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like if they make much more.
Let me just
and
pause you for a sec because I think I have a good example that I can use. So I'm going to come back to that in a second. Natalie, are you more of like a 50-50 kind of gal, or you want a guy to take the lead? And
It's a complex issue nowadays, just the way our economy is set up. But this is what I always come back to, is I think that the man should be able to provide for the family alone.
Mhm.
If she wants to work, that's great. So for example, if my husband makes 150,000 a year, if I want to work and I want a lifestyle that's putting us at a caliber of $400,000 a year and I'm going to contribute, then that's fine. If I want a more lavish lifestyle than what he can provide, then go to work. But I think women, especially if you plan on having kids, should have the ability to stay home and not work. And if you do that, if you want him to provide, then you don't get to dictate how much money he makes. You don't get to dictate like what kind of vacations do we get to go on? What kind of Christmas presents are you buying me? Why don't I have the Louis Vuitton bag that my best friend has? So there's a give and take. But I do think that as a man, you need to be able to provide solely 100% for your household. And if she also works and contributes, then that's icing on the cake. And yes, if you're a woman and you're working and you're making six figures, you don't just pocket all of that. That's not a fair relationship either. But that's my perspective.
What's the why behind the ask of the 50-50, Halston? Like, why are you asking the question? What's the story behind
I think it's just a topic that I've seen a lot through social media platforms and just like watching other podcasts of men and women talking about it. And I think especially in the United States, like in like the Northeast versus the South and like the West Coast, I think like, you know, answers vary. And like I'm from the South and like I will always assume that the man is going to pay for the day and will open my door and that he will be the provider and he will be the leader of the household and of the family. And I would never, like, if I went on a date and a guy asked me to split the bill, I would probably act confused and say, like, are we just friends here? Or like, is this not a date? Like I would, and I pray to God I never have to experience that. Like,
so
they're like, I have a friend that's like out in New Jersey and she was dating on Hinge and she kept running into like a lot of guys being like, no, you pay your first half like of the bill. And like, I don't know. I just like, it's not for me.
I mean, you know, when you're a younger guy, so from a guy's perspective, like when you're like Spencer, you're obviously a lot younger than I am. So when you go out on a date, do you pay for the drinks? Do you split the bill? Like, how do you normally do it?
I'm paying.
You're paying.
Yep.
Was there a time where you just sort of like split the bill, or did you ever think that was like the way to go?
No, I never. I mean,
I'll be honest, because I did.
really
Like when I was younger, like I, you know, this thing Dutch was, you know, like the go-to. Like you go Dutch, you
Are
go
we
on a
going
date, you go Dutch, yeah. And you kind of like, you know, you'd split the bill sort of thing because that's the new wave thing to do because women and men are the same. That's what we were told. But today, you know, where I'm at today, it's like I would be embarrassed if a chick was like, "Oh, let me get half the bill." It's like, don't embarrass me. Put your purse away. Like I've taken you out. Like let me handle this sort of thing, right? It really depends on where you are in life, the kind of person you are, the kind of guy that you're dating. I think for a lot of people, splitting the bill or going 50-50 in a relationship, like, hey, you know, we'll just go 50-50 on the bills or the mortgage, or, you know, we'll buy a house together sort of thing, 50-50. And it's like, that doesn't really work because women want to look up to a guy, right? Like you want to be with a giant. Women are hypergamous. They want to be with the best they can get with. Like they want to adore a guy. You know what I mean? Like there's the adorer and there's the adored sort of thing. And it's like, how are you going to adore a guy that you're splitting the bills with? Like, how are you going to adore a guy that you have to bust out your purse every time you go on a date and pay for your fucking plate of food? You get like, women get to the point where they look at guys like that, and they start to judge them and criticize them. Like, that's not a man. That's not how a man behaves, sort of thing. And they have this expectation that the guy is the guy. And he treats you and opens a door and takes you out on a date and plans a date. He doesn't ask you like, well, where do you want to go to eat? Or what time do you want to go out and eat? It's like the expectation that women have is, I'm picking you up at 8. We're going out to eat dinner and wear that black dress that I like, right? You don't want to have to think about anything. Just look pretty. I'm going to take care of the evening, right? And I think that's what women generally want. But there's these narratives out there, so these social media narratives, these toxic feminist narratives, sort of things that are like, oh, you know, men and women are equal, you should go 50-50 and make decisions together. And it's like, no, there's one steering wheel in a car with a driver's seat and there's a passenger seat, and I'm driving the car and you're the passenger and you're my guest and I'm going to look after you and we're going to have a good time. But you know, to kind of get back to your original point, it really depends on who you are, where the guy is in his life, how much money he makes, how much money you make, sort of thing. So there's a lot of variables that go into the mix. But I think ideally for women, they want to be with a guy that is leading. And that might mean a percentage more or two. You know what I've heard? I've heard 70-30 tends to work the best. Like guys are contributing about 70% of the stuff and women are throwing something into the pot. But women tend to get resentful when it's the other way around, when they're 50-50 or they have to contribute more because he can't make it work. If there's one thing that women absolutely hate is looking after a guy. You see these social media posts, these Reddit posts all the time, women complaining and bitching about lazy guys that can't hold down a job.
Who told you that? I said, who told you that?
Who told me what?
Who told you that women don't like looking after men?
Women generally don't like looking after men.
I love looking after men.
You will pay for his bills, his car loan payment, the mortgage.
I'm gonna have to add my opinion on this.
You love doing that? Because there's a million men out there right now watching this video that want to be in a relationship with you. See, May, this
Those
is
are
why
not
I was
men.
telling you earlier, we can't get honest answers from women.
I think Holly genuinely believes it, to be honest. But I did have
Holly, what do you do for a living? Sorry, let me just go back to Holly. What do you do for a living again?
I study art.
You study art. So how the fuck are you going to take care of a guy studying art? Please tell me.
Fair enough.
Right. So stated preferences versus revealed preferences, guys watching the show. Do you understand what I'm talking about here? This is why we do these shows.
Yeah, I think it is hard to find a woman who is painfully honest. I know because I'm one of the few, and people don't like me because of that sometimes. But yeah, you're right. I don't know if there's a way. Spencer, I just sent you a video. I don't know if there's a way you can pull it up, but I just posted a video on my story the other day about this. It's comparing 3 American men, asking them that question to 3 foreign men. I think they were English or something.
I'll see if I can pull it up right now.
Okay. It's pretty interesting.
Before that happens, I do have a point about women not wanting to take care of men. Personally, I know it's anecdotal evidence, but I have paid for dates, like my share and his share. Like when I used to be actively dating, I do that almost consistently every single time. I think, and I strangely used to do it when I didn't like the man, because I personally would know that I would not see him again, and don't want him to think that.
Feel bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because,
don't.
I mean, you want
you
to send a
felt
clear
bad.
statement that you're not investing in this any further than just you paying for your own plate or for your own drink. And that's what women typically do if they want to send the signal to a guy that they're not going to see him again, is they'll pay for half their bill, right?
I will say I do hear guys say that they feel very like appreciated or like it's a treat if a woman pays every once in a while, or if
Yeah.
it's like a birthday and you take him out,
Right.
like reversing the roles occasionally.
Yeah, I love that.
You know what? Make me dinner. If I'm sick, look after me, right? Like that's what I kind of expect in return for being the man in the relationship and paying for the dates, taking you out for dinner, and like driving you in the nice car. That's all. I don't want you to bust out your purse or your wallet. Like, you know, maybe if I'm doing something and, you know, you go inside, hey, I'm going inside, you know, do you want anything? I'm filling up the car in a rally or something like this. And she's like, yeah, you know, you want anything to drink? Yeah, grab me a water or a Gatorade or something like that. It's just understood. It's, you know, it's accepted. It's cool, fine, whatever, because I already paid for dinner last night and that was $200. Like there's no keeping score or anything like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
think
have the video here. I can pull it up.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Throw it up.
Asking men if they would provide for their woman.
Number one, why would I? But what is she doing while I'm working? It's kind of like each relationship now is a 50-50.
То, наверное, да. Вот, потому что все-таки я беру ответственность за человека.
Nah, she has to provide for herself. She's an adult.
Конечно, если жена, это семья, это дети, конечно, в идеале, чтобы она уделяла 100% времени воспитанию.
I mean, I would want it to be 50-50. That's the current situation I have.
Ей не хочется работать, если ей не хочется самореализовываться, ей приятно находиться на моем содержании, почему нет, я могу себе это позволить.
Asking men if they would provide for their woman.
Number one, why? What?
So that's the point, right? Like all of those guys that are saying 50-50, they're all nerds, right? Versus the Russian guys, which are strong, virtuous, competent, masculine. Of course, they're going to say, no, I would be embarrassed and I want to take care of her, right? Like she should be doing, like, ladies, there's blue jobs and there's pink jobs. There's things that guys are really good at and there's things that women are really good at. Why would I want to do the pink jobs? Why would she want to do the blue jobs? Why would I ask her out for a date and then say, okay, you know, since we've gone out on a date, why don't you grab this bill because I got the last one, right? That's not going to go over well.
I will say, I do think women, especially the younger generation, from what I see on TikTok, will take this concept of men providing and always paying to a ridiculous extreme and have this expectation that they just get to be a princess and like expect lavish gifts and diamonds and trips and yachts. And that's not realistic either, especially if this is a man that you love. Like, you accept his provision, whatever that looks like. And dates don't have to be expensive either. I mean, you can buy sandwiches and go on a picnic. But I think that's the toxic, like, extreme end of it is women hear this and they're like, oh, so I should never lift a finger. I should never pay for anything. He should just give me whatever I want. And that's not true either.
Okay, a lot of the entitled brats, a lot of the times in street interviews or even on, some of the like crazier podcasts out there where they're like, man should be taking care of my bills. And if he's going to ask me out, then he has to get a Happy Meal from the 3 different fathers and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, no, you're like your entitlement level and delusion is off the chart there. It's not where it should be.
Mm-hmm.
We got any other topics there, Spence? Anything the ladies want to ask while we're catching some there? Yeah, go ahead.
What do you guys think? Do you guys think men fall in love faster or women?
That's a good question. I think men are the true romantics. It's not answering your question directly, but I think men are definitely the true romantics in relationships, and women are more like women sign up more for the lifestyle, if you know what I mean. I don't know that men are. I think that women fall in love sooner, if I can put it that. Yeah. Okay. So listen, if you're a solid guy and you got good game, especially bedroom game, women fall in love sooner. Yeah.
Okay. I asked because I a while back I looked at a research paper and it was studying oxytocin in the brain, and they concluded in the study that men fall in love faster because oxytocin was excitatory prior to sex in men. And oxytocin is the brain chemical associated with love and affection and touch and just the need.
Yeah, I think that's why they've said that men use love to get sex and women use sex to get love.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is the thing, after men had sex, it didn't completely drop, but it was excitatory and then it went stagnant. Whereas for women, it was excitatory that they had sex, but it was at a low prior to the sex. So men had that need for closeness and affection prior to sex.
I think there's probably some truth to it that a lot of guys. Okay, for the average guy, because when I'm thinking about answering that question, I'm thinking about sort of rationalizing it, through my own experiences and anecdotally. But I think for the average guy, like the average sort of like plugged in guy out there, they fall in love very, very quickly. Yeah. It's like first girl that touches her PP, that responds to a text, they go out on a date or two. They start to get intimacy. They will like go head over heels very, very quickly. And that's not a good scene. It doesn't work out for guys, but I think that guys that are squared away in their head and they have options and, they understand the dynamics in the sexual marketplace, the women will fall in love with them faster. So it depends on the guy. It really depends on the guy.
Yeah, some people, we have a term here called post-nut clarity.
Yes.
You guys,
common around the world, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys would say it's that or if it's a bit of both. But yeah, no, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think it depends on the guy, but for the average guy, probably for about 80% of the guys, they probably fall in love a lot quicker than the women do. And a lot of women will get repulsed by that. I mean, if any of the gals on the panel want to chime in, like, has a guy ever sort of like a few dates in, profess themselves to you? I can see us together. What are we? Where's this going? You know what I mean?
Yes, it has happened, but I think the disgust comes from a place of couple dates.
Why is this guy so desperate?
No. Couple dates, you don't know who I am as a person. You don't know me that well,
Okay.
There's no way you can get to that level of intimacy where you love me as a person. I think that's they're viewing me through rose-tinted glasses. They have this idea in my head that I can never live up to because I'm not perfect. That's
Yeah.
why I think that's a massive red flag for me. That's why I feel disgust. They don't love me; they love the idea of me in their heads.
Yeah, that would make me think he's like severely insecure and like looking for some sort of validation.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of sorry, Rich, it reminds me of your concept of like a woman's genuine burning desire.
Mhm.
I think it 100% does depend on the guy, but in both directions. Because if he is like just stellar guy that is this unplugged alpha, so to speak, and she's going to have that genuine burning desire, and I think she's going to fall in love like right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you know it when it hits you, and it's one of the reasons why I tell guys never to ask for her commitment first. I think a woman should be the one that asks the guy for his commitment and his exclusivity rather than the other way around, because that will guarantee that she's like, you want to choose women that choose you as a guy. So my advice to men is choose women that choose you, and you're only going to know that you're with a woman that's chosen you because she's asking to see you. When am I going to see you next? What are we? Where is this going? I don't want to share you, blah, 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 sort of thing. Right.
Right.
So I think that conversation should be brought up by the women first to the men. But I think for the vast majority of women out there, they probably experience the guys coming at them first going, hey, or can we be boyfriend, girlfriend? Like, what are we, and that can sometimes happen pretty early on, which is why a lot of women can get, turned off or disgusted by it.
That's interesting. I'll say that's very opposite of what we're told.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
women are told to, like, I mean, women are proposed to in a marriage, right? So they kind of have the expectation the guy is going to ask her for her to be, his girlfriend, sort of thing. But I think it's far better if you're a guy with options that I mean, you can't do this if you're a nerd, obviously, but if you're a top shelf guy, you're doing something with your life, you shouldn't be asking for her commitment very, very quickly, if at all. It's far, far better if she comes to you and sits you down and says, hey, can we talk about something? There's something kind of going on in my head, and I really dig your vibe, and I've got some feelings for you, and I want to know where this is going, and like, what are we? And I don't really want to share you. I'm not that kind of girl. I'm not seeing anybody else. Like, that's kind of what you want, right? Like, that's where you want to get, and that's the kind of gal that you want to choose from, versus the one that's aloof, slow to respond to your texts.
See, I had this conversation on one of my podcast episodes, and he said the exact opposite. He said that a woman doing that will push the man away because you've like taken something away from him as a man, the opportunity to ask for exclusivity, and that it almost looks like
most guys out there.
or controlling.
Yeah, I thought that from what I'm aware of, I thought that men preferred for them to be the ones to pursue and do the chasing. So, and I don't want to call it chasing because maybe it comes across a bit toxic, but yeah, just pursuing and taking the lead in every aspect of the relationship.
Yeah, and that's going to put you in a position of waiting. But I mean, here's the thing. I mean, if you're dating a guy that ticks off a lot of the boxes, he's successful, he's competent, he's handsome, and he has a good social network, he's wealthy, drives a nice car, dresses well, sort of thing, why wouldn't you want to sit him down and tell him how you feel? Why wouldn't you want to say, hey, I want to claim you?
I don't agree with that. I think if a man, according to that alpha mindset,
well, I'll put it to you this way: if you don't, there's lots of other women that will, right?
I think the answer to the question is fear. Like, we're afraid that would push him away, or that we would look like.
I don't think it will.
I think for a lot of women as well, what we've been told is that if a man wants you, he will make sure that you know. So if a man's waiting to the point where you feel like you have to ask, for a lot of women in our heads, we think, oh, he's not that interested, so I'm not going to broach the topic.
No, that's not necessarily true, because if the guy's following my work, he's gonna follow my strategies too, right?
Well, unfortunately, you're not a dictator, so I don't think most men follow your work.
You're right, I am not, but fortunately, it does work when they follow it. Ask Spencer.
I guess the man would have to be very genuine, like for you to be able to.
What did you want to say, Spencer? Your mic's not working. Yeah, we're not getting any audio off you at all. Nothing.
You probably died.
Your lips are moving, but we're not hearing the words that are coming out of your mouth. You he's going to switch over. But sorry, Natalie, what was the point there that we were talking about?
I just think like both parties would have to be very secure and genuine for that conversation to go over well.
Yeah.
So
Well,
like I have a recent example of not necessarily approaching like can we be boyfriend and girlfriend, but just kind of like where is this going kind of conversation, and I like you, do you like me sort of thing. And there was a reciprocation. It was a very genuine conversation. There was a reciprocation of, yes, I like you, but right now it's a no because of XYZ on his end. And that almost, because he said, yes, I like you and you're phenomenal and blah, 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 that almost put me in a position, the no put me in a position of like, well, I'll wait. Like almost like, I hate to say it, but like in a submissive position where I'm like, you know, I like this guy, so I'm waiting for the time to be yes.
Isn't that interesting how that works?
Are we good now?
We're good now, Spence. Go ahead.
Yeah, my mic died, but it's all good because I got another one. What I was going to say is most men aren't having sex, don't have women attracted to them, or at least not the women that they want to be attracted to them. So the reality is that there's only a small percentage of men that actually have these options and have the ability to like wait out and choose the best option.
I have an interesting question for Kendall if you want to talk about it, because you mentioned that you got married young, you were a virgin when you got married. Why do you think your marriage fell apart, if you want to talk about that? And
Well, there's a lot of different reasons. I don't
because that's
fully...
supposed to work by the textbook.
You're right. Well, we were just, I mean, we were both 18. I was 18, he was 19. We had no idea what we were doing. You know, we had a child together. Before we got married, I had, hold on. I'm not sure if I need to
Well, if you don't want to go there, then that's okay too.
But yeah, like I said, we were just very young and weren't sure, you know, what we wanted in a partner, and it just ended up, he was way more religious than me. I thought I was religious. I was a good girl. You know, like I said, I didn't have sex before marriage. I didn't drink or smoke or anything. And after the divorce, I went wild, and he stayed with the whole, you know, I want to be a pastor and all of that. So I'll always think that if I didn't get married to him, that I wouldn't have went and been wild, because I feel like I was so restricted in what I was allowed to do, if that makes sense. Yeah.
What advice did your dad give you about that whole situation with the marriage and the divorce and all that?
None. He's not a part of my life.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't a part of your life, period.
When I was younger, yes,
okay.
But not in my teenage years, and since then, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you went wild and kind of rebelled and stuff. I saw some tattoos on your knuckles.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that was part of my wild phase. And when I say wild, I don't mean like promiscuous or anything like that. I'm a recovering addict. I've been clean for 7 years. So
Okay.
I went heavy off into the drug and alcohol scene. Became homeless. You know, but I'm clean now, and I feel like it taught me a lot of things about life, and I feel like I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
Sorry, I got distracted there for a second because when you said the drug and alcohol scene, Holly did this, like she was proud of. Can you explain that? Like, what was that about, Holly?
Sorry.
I mean,
I think
she's
Holly's
talking
in that
about being
phase
a
right
recovering addict, and you're like, yeah, party, drugs, and alcohol. Like, is
Sorry,
that what
I should have read the room.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
sorry, that was my mistake.
All right. Yeah.
It's all right. Well, when she talked about earlier that she, and this is no judgment, and I wanted to bring it up, but I didn't, that she, like the first question about being in a relationship, and if the man doesn't want her to go out or whatever, and she's like, well, I'd go out and drink, and, you know, I wouldn't do anything. I just wanted to like chime in and say, like, when you're drunk, you have absolutely no idea what you're capable of. your inhibitions are lowered. And like, have you ever been really, really drunk, Holly, and woke up the next day and you're like, I can't remember
I'm assuming
shit
yes.
about what I did last night? When you black out like that, do you not think that you're capable of cheating on your partner, even if you love them very much?
Well, when I've been blacked out like that, I've not been in a relationship, so. But
I think our
I
point
wouldn't
was like,
feel-
you know, your capacity exists to indulge.
I think if you
Or
were
it's
to get
elevated, if
full
anything.
of blackouts, there was no consent. So I don't think that's about capacity at that point.
That was my next point. Thank you, May.
Well, that's relevant too,
Yeah.
because if you're
That's
getting
relevant.
blackout drunk around other people that aren't the guy that you're in a relationship with, isn't that a risk exposure?
Oh, 100%. That is risk exposure. I'm not disagreeing.
Like, it's just stupid.
Yeah, you shouldn't be getting blackout if you're, especially in a relationship. And then also, like, where's your boyfriend?
Yeah.
Why are people getting blackout?
Yeah, I don't get, in general, in a relationship and outside of a relationship, I don't get drunk. Like, everybody knows that about me is I don't get drunk. Like, I enjoy a couple of drinks over the span of a couple of hours, but like, why put yourself in a position for bad things to happen?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's a two-pronged approach, like doing what you can to minimize the risk, but then also obviously and like educating people not to do that kind of thing. It's a two-pronged risk. You can't just wholly invest in one side and think, oh, this is the way humanity should be, and just expect everyone to live to that standard. You have to take what actions you can to minimize the risk. That's my take on that.
Got it. I want to start to wrap up. Are there any other questions before we sort of wind down the show? Anything you gals wanted to hit on before we go ahead, fire away?
I had a question about what you said earlier about the reputation thing, and you asked me if I would, if he checked up all the boxes, if I would date the Walmart greeter.
Yeah.
And then when I said yes, you said, were you saying that I was lying about that? Or?
No, it's not about lying. It's about, I don't want to look bad as a person, because women are very concerned with their reputation, right? Because if their reputation is tarnished, then that can harm. Like, you know, you go back 1,000 years. I mean, if your reputation is tarnished in a small village, you're fucked, right? Like this is why promiscuity was always shamed, you know, in the past, sort of thing. So I mean, you don't want to look bad in the sense of regard that you're judging somebody because of their weight or because of their level of income, sort of thing. But the stated preferences versus the revealed preferences are often quite different when it comes to women. Like, women will state, just as long as he's a nice guy, I don't really care how much money he makes. But revealed when it comes to dating, it's like, that guy's a broke bitch. He doesn't even have a car. And I'm not paying for his stuff, so I'm not going to date him, sort of thing, right? So it's like, women don't give particularly straightforward, honest answers when you ask them questions about...
What's the point of the question if you're just going to ask the question, and if they don't answer what you want them to answer, then you're going to say they're lying?
I didn't say she was lying.
Yeah, I was asking him to clarify if he was or not. But I think
it's managing the reputation. It's, you know, just like you, Holly, you don't want to judge somebody because of their weight, but at the same time, revealed, you don't want to sit on an aircraft for 5 hours beside a blimp that's overflowing into your seat. See what I'm saying? Anyway,
I have a question, a really quick one.
Okay, quick one, Natalie. Go ahead.
I want y'all's takes on women being plastic, because now it's so popular to have Botox and filler and full face of makeup and fake this and fake that. And obviously a lot of men do indulge in women like that. So I'm curious y'all's perspective on that versus someone who's natural.
I mean, for me personally, I'll let Spencer speak for himself, but for me personally, I like, you know, I prefer more of a natural look, not a lot of makeup. I don't understand those fucking eyelash things that women put on their upper eyelid. They look retarded. Somebody needs to tell women that, yeah, they look stupid. Big fat fish lips, you know, this stuff, you know, with the Botox injections, silly, foolish. I mean, Botox is a neurotoxin. So when you inject something under your skin, it's gonna get to your brain at some point. I know people say, that's, you know, it's totally safe and the test, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course they're going to say that because they want to sell you these fucking injections. And it's like, the vast majority of women look just fine with some wrinkles, you know, as they get older. As long as you take care of your skin, there's other treatments that you can do that will rejuvenate it. But like the plasticky look around the face, not a big fan of. I'm more of a fan of like a natural look. I'm okay with fake boobs. I mean, as long as they don't enter the room like 3 seconds before the rest of you when you walk into a room, like if they're obnoxiously big. It's like when you see those cars down in Florida with like the 30-inch wheels on like a Honda Civic, you're like, that looks stupid, right? So as long as it has like a reasonable sort of natural look, then it's totally fine. But aside from that, I'm not a big fan of like the plastic work or anything like that. Spencer, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, rating girls 8 and above reserved for girls with boob jobs only. Absolutely. No, I'm
Wait,
kidding.
8 and
I do
above?
Yeah.
Oh, so you like boob jobs?
I do like a natural look. I do also understand why stuff like plastic surgery, boob jobs, whatnot, that enhance features that are generally respected as attractive. I understand how this can trick people's like the evolutionary psychology into seeing this as more attractive. So I understand why it's there, but I do like the idea of natural.
The vast majority of guys that I know would err on what Spencer and I sort of just described. Like some natural enhancements are fine. Like when I buy a nice car, I'll header wrap the fucking turbos and I'll put an exhaust on it and I might change the wheels a little bit, but it doesn't look drastically different from how it comes out of the factory. I think it's the same thing with women. I think a little bit of lipstick and makeup, can go a long way, but when you go too far, like a lot of the obnoxious enhancements, most guys that I know, they don't like it.
Sorry, can I ask, what's Natalie's opinion on that? Because she asked the question.
I certainly share the same opinion. I think enhancements that are discreet are totally fine. I've certainly partaken in those. I think it's become really toxic for our culture, kind of back to like the body image whole conversation, for women to be all injected. Anytime I see a woman who got significant work done where you can really tell, my instantaneous first thought is she looked better before she did it. So I personally don't like it, but then I also question why so many men pay for it. I mean, you're talking OnlyFans. Most of those women look very plastic from what I've seen. So it's kind of a double standard too. Most men, they want their wives to look beautiful and natural without makeup. They want to wake up next to a beautiful woman, yet, porn stars don't look like that.
Just like a psychological, quick one. The association of plastic surgery, the look or the appeal for it is close to what a porn star would have. And do you think that's why it appeals to men?
Probably, but that's manufactured.
It's like a more sex-driven look.
Yeah, I would think so. You look at somebody like Kim Kardashian, she radiates sex. You look at somebody like Natalie Portman, and she radiates classy girlfriend. So, yeah, but I think it's problematic because it's a manufactured thing, the porn star look. So it's corrupting men's minds and preferences.
Kat, were you asking, so I can be clear on what you're asking there, were you asking if she thinks guys like this because of porn?
Rather like, do you think it triggers like an impulse in men, a physiological arousal in men, because the look is associated closely with what you would find in someone, no offense, someone who is a porn star, yeah.
I think it ties more into fertility cues is what, attraction from the Evo Psych perspective, when you study it, it's very closely correlated to like the hip to waist ratio, full lips, bust size and fullness. Like with things like skin tone and complexion and like hair shear and shine are indicators of health. Like weak hair or poorly colored skin, like gray skin even, would be indicators of a bad mate that you'd want to have children with, sort of thing. So I think attraction is very closely correlated to that when it comes to men to women. Whereas you know, for women to men, it's like, you know, masculinity, high testosterone cues. Like they've done tests where they've had guys wear like a regular cotton t-shirt for a couple of days. They sleep in it, they sweat in it, sort of thing like that. And they put them in bags, and they'll have women smell each of the bags, and they can smell the hottest guy based on the odor of the like the sweat and everything that's in it. You know, the pheromones and all that. So it's very, very different. But from the perspective of what men are attracted to, you know, when it comes to women, hips, lips, and tits is really what it boils down to. Nice skin, nice hair, natural sort of look. But when you go to the excessive enhancements, then that's when it's like, again, you know, like I said earlier, the thing that just wigs out a lot of guys that I know is like those stupid eyelash things on the top level. It just looks dumb as hell, and I don't know why women stick those things on.
Yeah, I think the reason I asked is because like I read up a lot of research online saying that the visual cues that trigger tend to be because it's sexually motivated.
Yeah, it's is she going to be able to deliver me strong sons and beautiful daughters?
See, but
These are all.
I've also seen like debates in the past online of people saying that women would argue that a lot of them get cosmetic work done to improve their appearance and help with their own insecurities, boost their confidence, yada yada, all of that. And then you have others who would argue that women get work done specifically with the aims of it physically appealing to the male population, to look good for a man. So I don't know where you guys would fall on that scale.
Well, I think a lot of women are misinformed with a lot of the procedures that they're doing, right? Like some women look utterly ridiculous with the stuff that they do, and nobody's being honest with them. I mean, I'll tell any of y'all that, you know, if you're being fucking stupid with what you're doing with your bodies, I don't care, because that's just who I am. But the vast majority of people just be like, you know, let her do what she wants. You know, if she's happy, it's fine. It's like, you know, in many cases, you should point at like silly things and be like, that's silly.
Yeah, I mean, all these features are just cues into good fertility, good genetics, and men who are attracted to these features over history were going to produce more children. There was a better chance for their genes to continue on throughout time. So naturally, men are going to be more attracted to these features. And plastic surgery really is only like a tiny window of history. So it's kind of just like throwing a wrench into it, and you don't really know what it's going to do. Mm-hmm. But men's interest, their attraction, comes from all this time before plastic surgery was a thing.
Like, do you know why women use red lipstick?
No, actually.
Nobody knows? None of the women know why women use red
Why
lipstick?
I don't know. It looks good. It looks sexy.
Because it mimics the vagina.
What?
I think black people would disagree. I can't
Never.
I'm just a messenger. Don't shoot me. I've just read the studies. That's all.
Oh God.
You know, it's the same thing with like hips, right? Like men like, you know, women with a good hip to waist ratio, because if a woman didn't traditionally have childbearing hips, the child wouldn't survive birth. Right?
Yeah, I think all that's like kind of a given, but where it's a gray area is because you would think that a man biologically would be able to recognize if that hip to waist ratio is manufactured. That's not her real body. So
to some degree, I mean,
sense.
like Brazilian butt lifts are pretty good these days.
I don't know. It would make
they're
sense
done
that you would be
reasonably.
attracted to the more natural looking woman because she's naturally what you're saying. She's naturally going to be a good child bearer or whatever.
Yeah.
But our biology is crafted through thousands, millions of years. Plastic surgery, these alterations are a tiny little window, like less than 1,000 years. Mm-hmm. Like, so that doesn't have really any effect on our actual biology. Our biology is crafted by this world where that's not a thing.
Yeah. JC's made a good point. He said, you know, ladies understand we'll sleep with fake looking women all day long, but that doesn't mean that we'll want to wife them up. You know, sometimes there's a novelty associated with, oh, that's interesting. I kind of find that attractive. Let's see what that's all about. PI Double says, what are some of the things the ladies would need to see in a relationship for you to approve of your 20-year-old daughter marrying a 40-year-old man? What are some of the things? I'm not sure I understand the question. What does that mean?
So under what conditions would you
I
let
had a
your
20-year-old daughter.
So under
Under-
what conditions would you let your sister marry a 20-year-old man? Like, what do you have to see for that to be okay?
Are they asking you or me?
No,
Yeah, it sounds like they're asking us. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had a
He's
20-year-old
asking- He wants to
daughter,
ask the ladies here if they had a daughter who was 20.
I would not
would
allow it at
the
all.
man have to
I would not
provide
approve.
for them
I
to allow
agree
it?
with Holston. I would not allow it at all.
That ain't
Like, what do
right.
you have in like that's the one thing that I don't understand. Like I will die on that hill. Like you're 40 years old. What do you have in common with a 20-year-old? She's not developed yet. When I was 20, I thought I was hot shit and was invincible and I knew what I was doing. And I'm 25 and I'm still learning. And I think that I
let's
know
do
a lot
this.
of things now. And like
Let's move the bar up 10 years. We'll call it 30 and 50. Does that change the perspective?
That's a different story. Yeah.
100%.
Like
Isn't that interesting how that changes though, huh?
Is your prefront? What was that brain part
Oh,
called
no.
again?
The prefrontal cortex doesn't
Yeah.
develop until about 25, 26 or
I
whatever.
still I think that's like so uncomfortable. If like a 30-year-old man is pursuing a 20-year-old, she's still a child. Like I genuinely believe like 23 and under, you are still a child. Like I don't think like you are developed.
No, I disagree. I mean, like, you know, 24 is 20 to 40 is a bit of a spread, right? I mean, if my daughter brought home an older guy, I don't know if I'd be cool with 40, but if my daughter brought home an older guy and he was like, you know, I want to marry your daughter. We've been seeing each other for a while. He's a good man. He's good at being a man. He provides. He's successful. He's competent. He's good looking. He wants to have a family. I would, you know, have a conversation with the guy. I'd be like, all right, well, let's sit down and have a chat, pal. You know, let's see what you're all about. I wouldn't shut it down because at least he's got a proven track record that I could examine. Like, you know, one of the questions that we would sometimes ask the gals on the show is, how would you feel about your father making your dating decisions or even who your husband ends up being, right? Because I think that he's in a far better position to help you make that decision than what you are, because he can see the stuff in your blind spots. So, you know, in a question like that, I think a daughter should seek the counsel of her father. And if there's no father, older brothers. If there's no older brothers, uncle. If there's no uncle, grandfather. When it comes to mate choice decisions, because a lot of the times, you know, bullshit baffles brains, and a lot of guys are really good at, you know, I was talking to a buddy of mine. You know, his daughter just got divorced a year after she got married. I think she's 29, and you know, she wants to have a family. And this guy is, he's Greek. And, you know, Greek guys, you know, my mom's side of the family is Greek too. So it's like Greek guys are very good at bamboozling women, love bombing them. And also for some strange reason, I've noticed, you know, quite a few times extorting resources from gals. And he found this to be true with, you know, his daughter's husband sort of thing. And I think if women were to listen to the advice of their father, they can avoid a lot of these bad mate choices, because they were the same age, you know, when they got married sort of thing. So it's like, you know, maybe that guy that's a little bit older that brings something to the table, that's sorted out and squared away and has a good life and is able to provide and, you know, let her be a stay-at-home mom and raise all the kids sort of things. That's not always the worst idea.
I think it's very situational. It would depend on
It
that
is situational.
20-year-old, because like when I was 20, I was a sorority girl. You know, I actually was in a relationship when I was 21 with a 36-year-old man. And when it wasn't until my late 20s that I was conscious enough to realize that he was a predator. He was a predator. He was very abusive. But at the time, my frontal lobe was not well developed enough to recognize that. So
Right. Did you get any advice from your dad or an older brother about that?
When
Or
my
did you keep it
parents
from them?
found out, yeah, both my mom and my dad did not approve.
Right. Did your dad say anything like, I want to meet this guy?
No, they were just telling me to break up with him. They found out through like a Facebook post, and my dad told me like, he's just using you.
Mhm.
And of course I'm 21. So I'm like, no, he's not. He loves me. But yeah, he was absolutely using me. But now I'm 30, at 30, you know, I've dated guys in their 40s, and that's a different ball game, because the playing field has kind of been leveled.
Yeah. And I mean, if he was serious about you, then he would have said, "Hey, I'd like to sit down with your old man and have a conversation because I really dig your vibe and I want to, keep seeing you."
Right. Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Correct.
So
Mhm.
there's also that element too. Let's do this, guys. Let's start to wind down because we tried to do this about 15 minutes ago. We usually end these shows on unsolicited advice from us to the ladies, as we've kind of understood you through the show. Spencer, do you usually go first, or does Moff go first? So we'll do it in that order.
Oh, we haven't been doing unsolicited advice for quite a few episodes now.
You haven't? Well, I'm gonna do it in this show. I'm gonna go clockwise from the top, Natalie, all the way around. So Natalie, I think you asked me to do your podcast at some point. I'm happy to hop on your show. Just
Yay.
DM me, and we'll schedule in. You seem like
Great.
an interesting host, and the dialogue would be cool. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
I don't really have any other advice to give you. I mean, you've read my book. You seem to understand a lot of the concepts that we talk about, so that's cool. Halston, very, very nice gal. I'm happy that you joined us on the show. You contributed a lot. Thank you so much. I wish you all the luck in the future. I think you took a lot from the show. May, very, very similar sort of feedback. Really enjoyed having you on, and your feedback. Even some of the stuff we didn't agree on was great too. Holly, you're a young gal in it. You got some growing up to do, and I think maybe in 5 to 10 years, you might come back and watch this episode and be like, "Huh, Rich was actually right about some of this stuff, and maybe I should."
I don't think I will do that.
I think you will. I think you will.
I still think
You
women over
probably will.
everything.
You probably will.
Yeah.
You will.
Kat, you're a
We can
wonderful
only
gal.
hope.
Again, appreciate you coming on the show and your contributions and the questions you asked. Very, very good. And Kendall, same to you. Ladies, be discerning and intentional in the way that you go about life, and dealing with guys, and how you invite them into your life in your bedroom, if I can put it that way. Spencer, do you do a wrap up at the end, or we just sign off and call it an evening?
We'll just sign off.
No advice from Spencer?
Spencer doesn't offer any advice, apparently.
I think
But
we've
yeah,
covered it pretty well.
yeah, you guys are all welcome to join us in a future show. If if you want to hit up Spencer, we can do something like that. But you guys have a great night. Leave a comment below. Do all that good stuff for the
I'll
algorithm.
give
Thanks
I'll
for
give
tuning
one
in.
piece of advice.
Yeah.
One piece of advice. Please don't be like Lily Phillips or the other girl who just did hit 1,000. Don't be like that.
Don't be a hoe.
I don't have that kind of energy.
Speaking of shows and stuff, I am doing one more show. This is like my second show today. I'm going to do a show tomorrow, so 3 this week. It's going to be busy because I'm traveling for the next 2 weeks after that. But tomorrow I'm doing a show on hybristophilia. I'm going to dive down the rabbit hole and try to figure out why women love dangerous men so much, because we've talked about this the last couple of weeks during chopping it up. And I watched this little clip with Dr. Ryan Teraband talking to Soft White Underbelly. I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a little clip there where he was talking about women lining up to sleep with killers on death row. So there's a bunch of articles that I pulled up. I'll be live tomorrow at noon. See you guys. All right, guys, if you enjoyed that podcast, make sure you visit my website at richcooper.ca to learn more about my courses, my book, The Unplugged Alpha, community, or booking me for private coaching. Also, if you are a Canadian with $15,000 or more of credit card debt and what you are doing right now isn't paying off the balances, then visit totaldebtfreedom.ca and hit get a free quote to see if you qualify to settle your credit card debt for less than you owe today over the next 48 months. Make sure you check out the top pinned comment on YouTube for all the links mentioned during the show. Peace.